hot button.
So originally I was going to use this time to discuss a certain FPS with y'all, but upon further inspection of the NDA that we might have agreed to, let's instead bring up a completely different Ubisoft beta, this being a bit of a follow-up to our E3 special with Rocksmith Plus, for which I have many thoughts on, both good and bad.
So here's the problem with discussing Rocksmith Plus. Your thoughts and my thoughts, I feel like, are the same.
Yeah.
So just know that I also have these, just for the listeners' sake, I also have these thoughts, but I'm probably just going to be going, yep.
Well, it goes without saying also that I am a drummer primarily, and you are
a
guitar
guitarist.
players. Yeah.
Yes.
My first impressions, anyway. As we mentioned a couple weeks ago, this is a sequel of sorts to Rocksmith and Rocksmith 2014. Two guitar and bass teaching tools that I absolutely loved and found many improvements with my playing ability personally and using them. This new one due out in, I believe,
October,
September. Yeah, you might be right. So the biggest thing about it is that it's pairing with a smartphone companion app as well as its function as a now live service. A change that makes technical sense in terms of the gear needed for it, lower bar of entry.
Yeah.
But something I'm still not happy to hear nonetheless, especially since it'll likely eliminate the compatibility with any of the custom content that kept it alive for me all these years. But no. All right. So first off, I didn't realize this during the Ubi Connect presentation that it does support audio interfaces. That is rad. That's why I want to start with the positives. And the phone stuff does work better than I thought it would. As for the negatives, I mean, upon boot up, there's already some really baffling decisions. They ask you what some of your favorite music genres are, right? And I'd say a pretty small subset of what's featured is even analogous to the fucking guitar.
Yeah.
So rock makes sense, metal, sure, jazz, all right, but then there's classical, hip-hop, pop, and electronic. No punk or alternative or new wave or indie, no surf. But you click on the ones that apply to you, and then they randomize a hopper of artists that you select that you'd vibe with. It doesn't really seem like it takes your preferred preferences into consideration, really.
I think
the genres that you pick.
I think it's designed to do so. But I don't think they have
There's
enough variety
yeah,
yet.
You might be right. So then when you get past that, the categories of how the tracks are listed is very confusing. There's literally a what's trending locally category, a thing that nobody ever on this earth has once considered while attempting to pick up an instrument.
Yep.
Gee, I wonder what my fucking neighbors are jamming on. I should look into that before. No.
Yeah, regionally, that's something that always applies. What's my neighbor listening to?
Yeah, when I go out to get the mail and Bob's watering his lawn, we can talk about Megadeth.
The thing about music is that you want to play what you want to play.
Yeah.
God damn it. Yeah. I guarantee a talentless suit thought of putting that in there and not a creative or musician of any kind. But, and by the way, as you you brought up Boston, this, in my opinion, I think the song selection currently is very poor.
Well, there's not a lot of variety.
Maybe not very poor, but it's
pretty poor.
Okay.
There's not a lot of variety, but also Rocksmith fell into kind of a trap.
I thought they would at least put all of the old DLC and on disc stuff for 1 and 2.
Yeah, because Rocksmith fell into the same kind of trap that Guitar Hero fell into. When you're making a track list for a music game like that, you start easy and then you go to the hard stuff.
Right.
You don't just load your game up with Through the Fire and Flames over and over again.
Yeah.
Right? But eventually, the people who stick around are the people who want that challenge of Through the Fire and Flames.
Sure.
So then all your DLC has to be hard. But Rocksmith is a fucking teaching tool.
Yeah.
And all they have is indie folk acoustic guitar songs and metal.
Yeah.
And so
I don't see a problem.
if you're I said this to Randy when we played it. If you're making a teaching tool for the guitar, the Ramones or the Clash have to be in there.
Yeah, old Weezer or something like that. Yeah.
Because you have to
learn some chords.
Power chords. You need something with power chords. They're easy, they're fun. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like the basis. They're like
regardless of your taste.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, any rhythm game lives or dies by its library.
Right.
I mean, that's a fact. Like, I mean, I get it. You can't please everyone, but in this case, like you said, you definitely need more reasonable choices to cover more difficulties, which, and for those lower tiers considerably, maybe make it so that you can read the entire track name and artist and the fucking UI so that it doesn't just get cut off.
Make it so that you can view a list of all the songs in the game?
Yeah, that too. And organize it by difficulty in the way you could in the other ones.
Mm-hmm. They're trying to trick you into trying new stuff.
Maybe. I mean, it's tough to know everything by exclusively that album art. But, like, when you scrolled through, it was similar to, like, a Rock Band or Guitar Hero where it would play a sample. And, like, those previews are gone. Like, you have to, like, the screen has to go over to the next, like, I don't know. In order to do that, but just going in and out of those menus. But it's still the in-game. It's great. It's still Rocksmith. Like it's like as
works well.
Yeah, and assuming your cable doesn't give out like mine did, they'll have to make sure that more of those get produced because
you just use your phone.
Connecting with the phone was like cumbersome, man. Like it's like. It is like the microphone is forgiving, but like those lower tones can be rough for it to register.
Yeah.
And if you're, more of a bass guy like me, that's going to become a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But like, and same with balancing the volume if you want to play loud. Oh, and the fucking, I don't know if you share my experience with it also, but the tuner is straight up busted. So you better have a snark nearby, I guess. I don't.
The tuner is better than it was in 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
in my experience.
through the cable.
Through the phone.
I'm talking about the phone.
I didn't try the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I did.
Have
you ever used like a tuner app on a phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it shitty?
I've also used one on a computer using like a desktop mic.
Oh, how did that go?
It was good enough,
All right.
Yeah, they work. Not well, but they work. They'll get you relatively in the right tuning.
I mean, also don't close out of the app either because you can't run it in the background. So it's
you can't. You also can't be in Discord and play it.
Yeah. Oh well, I found that was because of the cable though, the hardware, not the software. But I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to stream that game when I was playing the beta because maybe I didn't have said that, but like other people wanted to take a look at it privately in our own server, and it was like it confused the fuck out of my PC that it was like because the cable does read as a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wearing a headset with a microphone,
it also
Windows don't know what to do.
Yeah.
It also lowers your microphone volume.
Oh yeah,
because of microphone volume in Windows. If the cable as a microphone in Windows was cranked up to 100%, it wouldn't be able to read the tone because guitar gets pretty distorted at 100% volume.
Yeah,
but then when you switch to another mic, Windows doesn't know what it's doing. So then you just come into Discord and you're like, guys, I'm here, and everybody goes, "What? I can't hear you."
Yeah.
And then Randy,
you fix it, and then everyone goes deaf.
And then Randy curses a bunch and goes, fucking Rocksmith."
Nothing works right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does sound like me. But I will say the inclusion of acoustics is neat. You might hear every mistake, but it is cool to have. But yeah, I don't know. It could still be promising. I know it is a work in progress, but just fix the song sorting. And if you can't bring back the Guitarcade, then at least don't take away the multiplayer. That was probably the most disappointing thing for me. But
don't take away the tone designer.
Yeah. Yeah, that too. I hope the pricing is reasonable. We'll see.
Yeah.
But those are our impressions so far. My Rocksmith minute. Well, that was more like 3-5 minutes. Anyway, THQ. 3 little letters by themselves that once meant a lot in video games when paired together. Whether it was their association to original works or licensed shovelware, landmark debuts on brand new hardware, or stripped down handheld versions of popular console titles, novel sequels to older IPs whose rights holders went kablooey, or dumb ideas that made them go kablooey themselves. Many enthusiasts always still knew the name of the American publisher that, for a time, was hanging with the best of them. And there's a damn good reason for that. Their output of software during the 90s and 2000s may have been prolific, But often, sandwiched between all these releases, you would actually find something really exciting and fresh, like pretty great. Because it wasn't all SpongeBob and Bratz. Red Faction, Saints Row, Company of Heroes, Darksiders, Metro, Destroy All Humans, Stalker, De Blob, plucky franchises born from an era where risk-taking from larger studios was much more prevalent. But I know what you're already thinking. Why would we be bringing them up? Something had to have gone wrong, right? Well, you'd be correct, as they went full belly up back in 2013. So how did this happen? Who the fuck is THQ Nordic then? Where's our remaster of 50 Cent Blood on the Sand? Welcome back to another episode of Hot Button, where we perform an autopsy on a now dead company to find out what exactly killed it. I'm Randall Beatrice, here with Austin Blakesley.
Yo.
And Sean Chambers.
What's up?
As well as Fuse for the first time ever joining us in the studio. How's everybody doing?
If you hear dog noises, there's a dog in here.
I know he's doing well. He was passed out on the couch next to you for a while, Austin. And
He just moved to the floor. Now he's passed out on the floor.
Yeah, I was laying low during the Rocksmith talk because I don't have a lot of hands-on experience, but
I probably should have brought up something a little more.
I was like,
akin to.
but listen, I like music. I like.
You have been known
music.
to play the guitar and the drums,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Yeah. All right, so our story of THQ's history begins with a man no longer with us named Jack Friedman, a veteran of entrepreneurship, primarily in the business of toys and video. He was also a total philanthropist, founding 3 separate major distributors of products in just one career lifetime. The first being New York-based LJN Toys in 1970, who specialized mostly in lines of kids' playthings that were licensed from like popular movies and television shows of the time. E.T., Magnum P.I., Indiana Jones, Gremlins, Back to the Future, even Dungeons & Dragons. Until shifting over to video games in the late 80s following the returning boom post the crash from years prior. I love how much the fucking crash comes up on this
It's important.
show, yeah. One of these days, we're going to actually tackle that like a whole thing. So he already had connections to those outside departments who negotiated the use of film properties for, manufacturing toys. Why not do the same for the NES? And that he did. The Karate Kid, Jaws, Friday the 13th, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Back to the Future again. Now, one could absolutely make the argument that quality was not their biggest concern here, but the Switch certainly proved commercially successful regardless, showing him and LJN that toys were out and gaming was in.
The Switch?
Here to stay. No, not yet.
Nintendo Switch.
It started in the 80s.
The controller stopped working. It's weird.
So what did this entail for them? Sell to Acclaim, of course. Previous Hot Button topic plug, by the way. As I do feel like everything we're about to talk about here does serve as a bit of spiritual successor to that one, especially with that crossover and how they were kind of in direct competition to each other for a while. But yeah, they were eventually dissolved in 95, which brings us to the subject at hand, as Friedman knew what he wanted to, wanted his focus to be now. Thus, we're going to pull back about 5 years to the birth of THQ proper. Acclaim was at the wheel for LJN. What's the worst that could happen there, right? It was the publisher of Tetris Worlds' moment to shine. So by the end of April 1990, THQ was officially launched out of Calabasas, California, the acronym standing for Toy Headquarters, which I actually did not know. What's funny is that they did actually continue to make some toys for their early days, despite games still being their their main devotion. But in order to grow, they were going to need more divisions. In September of that year, they acquired a piece of Broderbund, which was another group operating wait, who? They were most okay.
They made those Staples games. You know when you go to Staples.
Okay,
and they have the rack of $5 PC games like chess and shit. Oh,
yeah,
that was Broderbund.
They were well known for a couple fairly significant successes in the digital space on this list. So I don't know what Shoplifter was, but I know Lode Runner and also the OG Prince of Persia, I think was them. So by this point, they seemed like they were doing all right. Later they would be the folks behind Myst and the Carmen Sandiego series.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, those are staple games. Yeah.
The exact opposite of what they got.
These, along with their work, These, along with their work on various educational software, such as Mavis Beacon teaches typing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mavis Beacon.
Yep.
My girl.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the name.
Yep. Still don't know how to type, but damn, that game was fun.
This was it wasn't as good as Typing in the Dead.
No,
It's better.
Nothing is.
It was better than Mario Teaches Typing. You ever play that?
No.
Never had the pleasure.
But this was looking to be quite the get for him. Okay, now I'm going to need some help with this next part. In 1991, a newly formed public shell corporation called Trinity Acquisition agreed to merge with THQ in a reverse merger takeover. Supposedly, this is when a public company buys a private company so that the private company can, quote, bypass the lengthy and complex process of going public.
Sounds like good business to me.
Yeah, so you have to IPO
what's
when initial public offering.
Oh.
So when you get listed on the stock exchange, you have to basically publish a whole bunch of what people would like to be private details about their business in a very lengthy packet.
Okay.
And then you have to get experts to evaluate your company and then determine the share price and give you an amount of initial shares.
Yeah, because this says through like an asset exchange or share issue. Okay. Yeah, wait.
So if you're a private company and there's a public company who's not doing so hot, and you want to get on the stock exchange, a quick way to do it is to acquire the public company. You take over their spot on the stock exchange, and their stock price, et cetera,
Gotcha.
and then you don't have to do an IPO.
Exactly why business, like a business degree, never interests me.
No,
that was all like a different language, but I get what you're saying.
I knew some of those words.
And it wouldn't be me if I didn't say the stock market is a scam.
Yeah, that I already know.
It's a giant pyramid
One of these days
scheme.
we're going to talk about that GameStop squeeze. Yeah, it says the transaction typically requires reorganization of capitalization of the acquiring company. So yeah, you're right. See, I am not the most business savvy, but this may just be entirely normal, though. Yeah. Like the deal then was a stock swap valued at about $33 million.
Capitalism gonna capitalism, man.
Their shareholders owning 51.7% of the new entity. Then THQ's name was retained, and Friedman became president. Anyway, back to it. Let's talk video games.
Right.
See, when that all went down, they had only put out 2 titles under their banner so far. One in January for the Nintendo Entertainment System called Fox's Peter Pan and Pirates, The Revenge of Captain Hook. Geez, a little long there for a title. But yeah, this was based off the live-action Hook movie, the Robin Williams one.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Disney's animated film from the 50s.
Oh, Foxes.
Yeah,
Foxes.
yeah.
like the multimedia conglomerate.
Yeah.
Yes. That was in the title, like, officially.
I thought you were talking about the Robin Hood Disney movie with the Foxes
Maybe-
Robin Hood.
Oh, no.
No. Yeah.
I got
that movie.
confused. It was very confusing.
Yeah, that's like when anytime that there's a Star Wars video game, it's just like do you remember the Dark Forces and Rogue Squadron? Like how fucking confusing that got? It was like LucasArts Star Wars, Rogue Squadron 2, Rogue Leader. Like it was just their like Jedi Knight, like
Yeah, Star Wars, LucasArts Star Wars,
Jedi Knight
Dark
2,
Forces
Dark
4,
Forces,
Jedi Knight
Outcast,
2, Jedi Outcast.
Yeah.
If you get enough words on the front of the box, you don't have to worry about box art. So they were thinking.
Yeah, it's like that Arkham City box art.
Oh my god, that Arkham City box
Think of it
art's
as like the
amazing.
opening credits to like a Star Wars movie. All you get is
the
words.
title crawl on the
It's the
box.
title crawl, but it's all title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So I did like I looked up gameplay of this and it seemed bad. It's a side scroller, kind of crude even for 91. Like
Fox's very own creating something bad. No.
And this was the SNES was out, or no, I guess it wasn't in the United States yet. It was just over the horizon. But hey, we all got to start somewhere. The second,
You telling me Japan didn't get Foxes, Peter Pan, and Robin Williams, or whatever you said?
Revenge of
Revenge of the Robin Williams?
yeah.
I'd play that. Well, I don't know if Japan got this one, but they are at least more baseball fans because this is Bo Jackson 2 Games in 1. This is for the Game Boy. That hit in June.
Was it football and baseball?
I only saw footage of the baseball. So I don't know if there's football.
I
in
did a
there.
report on Bo Jackson in elementary school.
Did
He
Bo-
was like the only professional athlete to ever succeed in 2 leagues. He was in the
Oh,
MLB
no
and
shit.
the NFL. Yeah.
Okay.
That would make sense then.
Yeah.
This game did look better. Albeit still like tough to go return to considering it's the freaking Game Boy. And those performed fine. However, by the fall, they had their first, like notable lineup of profitable releases. They were Where's Waldo for the NES?
Cool.
Still trying to find that guy.
Keeps disappearing, dude.
I just don't know why he doesn't want to be around us.
He's a criminal. Home Alone for the Super NES and Game Boy. The Flash for Game Boy. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes for both the NES and the Game Boy.
Hell yeah.
But you'll appreciate this, Austin. A port of Wayne Gretzky Hockey. The game that was said to have put Bethesda on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think there might be a copy of that in this house somewhere, isn't there?
Wayne Gretzky Hockey.
Yeah.
I would be surprised
Well,
if
Wayne
there
Gretzky,
wasn't.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky Hockey is weird.
It was an arcade.
Well, there's like 8 Wayne Gretzky Hockeys.
Okay.
'Cause it was
I think we
like-
have the SNES one.
It's like Bethesda at first, and then THQ, and then Acclaim got a hold of it, and then Sony had it.
Sony had it?
Yeah, the PSP one is called Gretzky 2005 or whatever.
Man, he was the hockey player to get for a long time.
I mean, he is the best one of the best
That's
hockey
fair.
players of all
I
time.
have to make this joke. You miss 100% of the games you don't make. I had to say it.
It just reminds me of anytime the EA has to show off FIFA, they always get Pele. And, Yeah. So not particularly the greatest portfolio yet, though it kept them trucking along. Like their calendar was padded. There was no question about that. It's just that a lot of it was cheap trash. In 92, there was a Swamp Thing game, Rocky and Bullwinkle stuff, more Waldo, Home Alone 2.
The licensing fiesta.
Yeah, and James Bond Jr., which I think I bought a copy of that for Matt as a LARF one, like one Christmas. But
Do you remember anything about that? James Bond Jr., that sounds so strange.
I know, it does. The title's more interesting than I believe the game was. But
Is it anything like the Ace Ventura movie when he had a kid? Or the...
I have an idea for James Bond Jr. So you know how that dude's
Yeah.
always boning people?
Oh, yeah, he's got to have a lot of kids.
Finally caught
Yeah,
up to him.
Yeah.
so it's like
It's just cheaper by the dozen.
it's
but
like
with James
it's like
Bond.
Wonderful 101, but a James Bond game. So it's like GoldenEye, but there's 100 of them.
Little Bonds
Yeah.
running around.
All the kids he doesn't
It's like
acknowledge.
Mario. It's
Yeah.
like Mario 128, but with Pierce Brosnan.
That's a really obscure joke. So March of 1993, they acquired their first in-house developer, Black Pearl Software from Chicago. The people behind nothing
Johnny Depp?
we've played, so I'm not even going to bother. Sorry, Black Pearl, you got to do better than the Mask game. So throughout the rest of the year, there
I
was...
tried to make a Johnny Depp joke because Curse of the Black Pearl.
Oh,
and
that...
you ran over it, so I would like it acknowledged, please, before we move on.
Okay. I'll give... You want me to wait another, 2 or 3 seconds?
Where's all the rum gone? That's my other Johnny Depp
I
joke. Remember that?
movie. So then there was Wayne's World for the SNES, some Rocky and Stimpy games, Thomas the Tank Engine games.
Rocky and Stimpy.
Sorry. Ren and Stimpy.
Could you imagine that crossover?
Yeah, Ren and Bullwinkle is my favorite cartoon.
The Lawnmower Man.
I heard that game's awful.
Yeah, we should try it. Also, by here they did branch out into the Genesis carts as well.
Hell yeah.
Because
The
they
better
were
of the
doing
two.
what Nintendo wasn't.
Yeah, I remember that commercial.
Yeah.
By 94, though, we do have some notable changes to report. They finally got permissions to partner up with Disney on a couple titles, and it was announced that THQ would be dropping any remaining production on toy products to work exclusively on video games.
Did you ever see what toys they actually made?
Oh, I saw.
No, yeah.
I briefly looked over. It was one really startling, scarily created Macaulay Culkin.
Okay.
What?
Or friggin'
I hope
Kevin
that's true.
Kevin McAllister.
Yeah.
It's almost like
I love
they tried to
Macaulay
mix
Culkin.
him with Freddy Krueger. It's like, he kind of melted like Freddy.
Was it like just an action figure?
It was like a little toy. Yeah, it was
Okay.
like that's the only thing I saw.
Whoa, yeah.
Oh, well, that's got to be in the thumbnail now,
I
right?
found it.
It's like if
Oh, that's hard.
It's
Oh,
like-
man, they made a Vanilla Ice action figure?
collector's item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They also have a
I don't know
line.
why I thought that was so amusing.
They have a line of Fox's Peter Pan and the Pirates action figures.
There
as
you
well.
go.
Yeah.
That's called synergy.
They were doing
Vertical
it 20 years
integration.
ago.
Also, because of them not making Macaulay Culkin action figures no more, and Vanilla Ice or whatever, the dot between the T and the H on their logo would be removed. Apparently, that was there before. If
Headquarters, one word, two.
It's one, so I don't. They're stretching, I think, a little bit of.
All right. How much is a Vanilla Ice doll? Continue talking.
All
I'm
right.
gonna buy one for the studio.
But none of this, by the way, is like nearly as big as the news the following year that would hit then when founder Jack Friedman would reveal that he was leaving the company to start up yet another toy manufacturer.
Just got bored.
Yeah, Jack Specific with 2 Ks, no C.
That's where I come from?
Yeah, so out of games and back into where it all began for him, running a place centered around, like plushies, costumes, and again, action figures. They too were a licensee for many huge scale holders, Disney, Star Wars, which is now Disney, Nintendo, which is not Disney yet, thankfully.
Like the Disney of video games.
Yeah, they definitely are.
Oh my God, it's $20.
Better hop on that.
God damn it. So this was where he remained until his retirement in March of 2010, and then his death in May of 2010.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's quick.
But yeah, like short.
Should have kept working. Maybe you would have stayed alive. He's died from boardom. Is that what it says?
Just like a hummingbird.
I don't have anybody to yell at.
I feel like my mom probably worked with Jack Specific back when. I'll have to ask her.
They made wrestling action figures. Did your mom ever model those?
Yes, actually.
Then yes, she did.
Yeah. So returning to THQ though, they had a new CEO, Brian Farrell, who
Cool name.
Yeah, he incorporated the publisher as a Delaware corporation.
Yep, everybody does.
But tax, yeah.
Tax avoidance.
Yeah.
Yay,
That makes
capitalism.
sense. Meanwhile, the games were continuing to get produced and make it onto shelves at a very quick rate throughout the 90s. Consistently. Not uncommon for their mission or out of the ordinary for groups like them during this generation. Acclaim. There were a couple highlights here, though. Like there was Ghost in the Shell for the PlayStation. I don't know if anyone.
I played that.
Yeah, it was interesting. And Quest 64,
Oh,
a wholly original IP. But the most noteworthy in terms
Hold
of
on.
financial success.
Before you move on, shout out Quest 64. I played
Too
hours.
much of that game.
It had to be triple-digit hours of that game,
Really?
and I never beat the first level.
What were you doing in it the whole time?
I don't know.
Do you still have it?
No.
Like, you want to try and beat it?
Yes. Let's get a copy. How much is a copy of Quest 64?
I don't know. I mean, right now, it can be tough to tell.
I'll buy it with my Vanilla Ice doll.
this thing's great together.
That's what this episode's going to be.
You're messing up the recommended from what people frequently bought together. You're going to blow everybody's mind that's looking for either of those items. Frequently bought together, Vanilla Ice doll and
Everyone's the Amazon algorithm's going to fucking break. So their biggest financial success and childhood, and as well as childhood nostalgia for many, was their partnership with the aforementioned the WCW wrestling organization, releasing several sleepover smashes for the N64 and PS1. Prior to this, it was actually former Subject Acclaim. I know they keep coming up. Who handled the dispense of those, and these sold extremely well. Enough that it was time for a second acquisition, one of many that we'll get deeper into today. But so who did they buy here on the precipice of the new millennia? GameFX from Massachusetts, who I'm not going to lie, I had difficulty researching information on. From what I could tell, they were a subsidiary whose mission was to purely support work, as I didn't find any development credits prior to their shuttering in 2002.
Another short-lived.
At least with Genetic Anomalies, their next purchase in 99 from the same state, they had a digital card game called Cron X under their belt. I don't know.
Okay.
There was also, and get a load of this name, Pacific Coast Power and Light, also known as, earlier known as DT Productions, later known as Locomotive Games, now known as Closed. They operated under they were operated under EA Sports founder Don Traeger and Atari's Dennis Harper.
Not to derail you. What was the name of that company?
Pacific Coast Power and Light.
Okay, that sounds like a 70s band.
It does.
It's like ELO.
That is a great fucking name for a company that has nothing to do with power and light. Also, anybody out there wondering, I found a complete in-box copy of Quest 64 with the Prima Official Strategy Guide for $175.
And buy now.
It is the same price as a complete in-box with Strategy Guide copy of GoldenEye.
Ooh, wow, really?
Two highly sought-after titles, apparently.
Don't you dare compare
Or just one got...
I mean, there's probably plenty of copies of GoldenEye out there. I don't know if I could say the same about Quest 64. So works of Pacific Coast Power and Light included Nuclear Strike, Road Rash 64.
Whoa, no way. Nuclear Strike?
Mm-hmm. A helicopter game?
Oh, you say Road Rash?
Yeah, Road Rash 64 specifically, which wasn't that great of a Road Rash, honestly. Jet Moto 3 and a few motocross stuff like MX Superfly. So not bad. Big
Jet Moto.
Jet Moto's cool.
I only ever played 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never played 2.
I think there's like 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
And lastly, we have Iron Heavy Studios was formed, who would handle a portion of the kiddie titles till getting to assist on way bigger and more interesting things once they, I guess, prove themselves. I don't know.
Light work.
But before we go further, we're about overdue for a controversy, don't you think? This one's just a quickie. In February of 2000, it appeared that a class action was on their hands over a, quote, federal security laws violation due to non-disclosure of material information. Translation, well, it looked like anyone who purchased their common stock between October 26, 1999 and February 10th, later extended to May 24th, may have been entitled to some compensation upon the allegations coming out against THQ's board of directors and officials who supposedly misclaimed company growth as a way to drive up share price in an effort to sell their own shares in order to use the stock for even more upcoming acquisitions.
Is that fraud?
Yeah.
Interesting. Good business practices.
The question is whether or not they were prosecuted for the fraud.
Yeah, so...
And the answer is no, because it's the United States of America.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're jumping the gun a little bit here, but so their written evidence being that one of the studio representatives directed the finance department to prepare a false earnings forecast by projecting the quarter's profit to be 20% higher than it really was. Then the truth was not properly disclosed during the loss period after the money being pulled in was substantially lower. You know, who cares? I'm sure this sort of boring crap happens like constantly within industries like this. Maybe I'm wrong, but otherwise we'll be here forever because those documents are dense. The short version is that advantage was taken. 522,212 shares were sold from 8 employees, totaling at $14,737,351. There was a trial that June, and things were settled for an undisclosed amount.
Of course.
Good thing insider trading isn't a felony.
But none of this slowed them down in the slightest. And this also wouldn't be their only instance and potentially go to the court. But they had Game Boy Color ports of Croc and Madden coming out, or Star Trek Conquest Online. They had to get to it. But the desire to expand and to pursue more internal projects carried on with my personal favorite group of the litter. Also the most valuable partner of them all, Volition.
Saw that one coming.
An Illinois studio born as Parallax Software in '93 by duo team Mike Kulas and Matt Toshlag of Descent fame.
Personal friends of yours?
Yeah.
Good old Toshlag.
Although Toshlag would bounce out to open Outrage Entertainment prior to the renaming and acquisition. Apart from that, though, this proved to be a smart fucking investment as the best-selling console ever, the PlayStation 2, was prepping for its drop in the West and needed some killer apps to go along with it.
What are we talking? Chicken wings? Loaded fries? What do you get with your PS2 purchase?
Well, here's what killer apps we got.
You get some mozzarella sticks and jalapeno poppers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So foreseeing this importance, THQ greatly assisted Volition in getting out Summoner in times for the system's day one release, along with another new IP 6 months later, a game so near and dear to my heart.
You see how he's being all coy? We know what it is.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Red Faction.
Yeah.
Sorry, Red Faction. That's what they yell in the game. I have no doubt brought up a non-engage version of this game before on the show. But yeah, it slaps. Each project would also be their largest budget yet. Not just in terms of development, but promotion and marketing. Because Summoner did well, especially for a launch title, and those searching for an RPG on next-gen hardware. Though Red Faction, I take much pleasure in saying that Red Faction did gangbusters for them. It quickly became their highest-rated and fastest-selling product to date. The sci-fi FPS, full of its patented geomod destruction, even landed itself in the premier wave of the PS2's greatest hits collection of reissues. But we're not here to listen to me wax poetic on 2001's top shooter. Let's get into a couple of the latest members of the THQ family.
You already said he's trying to slip the ship by us. You gotta keep on your toes. He just said 2001's best shooter, Red Faction.
Oh no. Maybe in your eyes.
Don't worry, there's going to be plenty of more titles to come up that I'm sure you'll all have a lot to say. So this next, I guess they're Helix Games, again from Massachusetts. They were assigned most of the Game Boy Advance and later DS stuff through Nintendo. And then there was also Cedar Ridge Construction.
Another great 70s band name.
Really,
Are you sure
that was the best,
THQ didn't accidentally just invest in infrastructure?
Yeah, like property, like
power and light and construction. Gotta diversify your portfolio, man.
Well, it's funny you say that because I could not locate shit on these guys with my sleuthing.
Construction company.
No gamography is so like I'm going to assume support studio, But here's one with some history. Rainbow Studios. They began in '86, rebranded in '92. Racing games was their forte, and then Cranky Pants / Sandblast Games, who's listed as assisting with
what a name
port work.
Cranky Pants.
Cranky Pants Sandblast.
No, Slash. So this is kind of interesting. THQ went back and also snatched Outrage Games as well. The remaining half of the Descent team who didn't spin off into Volition. And this is when their Australian division was formed too. Going deeper into the early aughts, though, I'm going to rattle off some more published works from THQ that I cherry-picked. That'll take us to the next, major bullet point. And the license stuff was still abundant, but here's the ones I felt stuck out. So if you guys have anything you want to add about these, you had Dark Summit. It was like an alright snowboarding game, but not SSX. So I brought this up earlier, but Tetris Worlds, the thing everyone stated destroyed the fundamentals of Tetris until many of its changes became standard, and now people love them.
Was that before Tetrisphere?
This was after Tetrisphere.
Oh.
Tetrisphere was 64.
Nobody was commenting on that.
Tetrisphere. This is the first time somebody has said Tetrisphere out loud. And
if you say it 3 times in the mirror, Alexei Pajitnov comes into your bathroom and snaps your neck.
Did I at least die to that cool music?
Then there's Sonic Advance. Back when those were still good.
Advance game?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. The MotoGP 1 and 2 for the Xbox. Really impressive motorcycle racing sims at the time. A follow-up to Summoner on the GameCube. That 2 scored well. And Red Faction 2. A suck-ass piece of garbage sequel to a masterpiece.
I played it. It's exactly like the first one.
It fucking blows. Oh, it's terrible. Plus,
it's weird how the one that came out before Halo is great and the one that came out after Halo sucks. It's almost like Halo changed people's perceptions of what a shooter could be.
Red Faction 1 still holds up.
Does it?
There was also, what do we got? Big Mother Truckers.
Personal favorite.
Yeah. Alter Echo.
Okay. Weird game.
Yeah. Then their first outing into the Warhammer 40K stuff. Some Hot Wheels. That SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom game that people and speedrunners cared so deeply about that they somehow willed a remake into existence 17 years later.
Yeah, that definitely surprised me. I didn't get it then. I still don't get it.
Yeah, same. Similar with there's a Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I never touched that one. Another MX entry as well as more handheld Sonic with Sega. Like these were performing pretty like all right overall. I skipped over a lot of the wrestling and games from cartoons.
Yeah, how dare you? WWF No Mercy.
All right, yeah, but at this point they were yearly, and it's
The Rock says know your role and shut your mouth. So,
trying to say something to him?
No.
And I'm sure most I bet a lot of those also sold decently too. But enough anyway to get to our next acquisition, a biggie, Relic Entertainment, and like Volition, still around today. From Canada, they came into the scene in '97 before being purchased in April of '04. The RTS homeworld being their proudest achievement by this moment in the timeline. Although a few months later, THQ would see a nice hit from critics following Relic's Warhammer 40k, the Dawn of War strategy PC game, while the very next day they would publish Pandemic's Full Spectrum Warrior. And you guys play these ones?
Yeah, I played Full Spectrum Warrior a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, was that one of the ones that came in like a lot that you?
Yeah.
What'd you think of it? Because I only played a demo back in the day. I don't actually think I ever sat down with it.
It's cool.
It seemed neat.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like anything that I remember the name and then the name sticks out to me, but without a visual, I can't remember.
It's
for the
like
life of me.
it's like
I remember being in the higher echelon of military shooters at that time.
It's like an RTS kind of, but you're only controlling a squad of people.
Okay.
But you don't directly control any of them. You just give them orders.
Okay. Was it like similar to maybe a SOCOM? Well, not the multiplayer stuff.
So I was
like,
thinking, or Ghost Recon or something.
Yeah.
It was like SOCOM and kind of a little bit like the earlier Rainbow Sixes.
Okay.
But
that's neat.
Actually, a lot like the earlier Rainbow Sixes. Like, in the early Rainbow Sixes, you could, like, control your squad and give them orders?
Yeah.
It was like that if you weren't controlling somebody.
Okay. Like...
You split the squad up into two.
Because I was about to say Battalion Wars, but in Battalion Wars you would do directly play as units.
It's like you have a squad of 4, you split them up in 2, and then the 2 go behind this car over here, and then these 2 are behind the building, and then you direct the 2 behind the car to shoot at the enemy and give covering fire, and then these 2 you tell them to move forward. It's like an RTS. You're doing RTS like commands, but it's just with a squad of 4 or 6 people.
Do you remember if it was like a third person or first person?
Third person.
Third, yeah.
Okay.
Now, there were some complaints surrounding the simulation war shooter strategy game in conjunction with their connection to the United States Army. And no, it wasn't a conversation of whether or not it was tasteful, but that the press was questioning if the government lost money on the investment into the funding of it, as like the final product itself was deemed, quote, not realistic enough for use of training with young soldiers. That's how I think America's Army, the game, came to be.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do think that the American military were like consultants on the production. It was a different time.
Well, peek behind the curtain, the American military are consultants on a lot of stuff.
It's true.
Including Marvel movies and
Transformers
movies, and
that's why they're represented the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't worry, we'll expand more on Relics soon. I do believe beginning here they were labeled as THQ Canada, by the way. Both Dawn of War and Full Spectrum Warrior performed successfully, though. So much that it was back to further acquisitions. We have
buying everything.
I know.
Wait, hold on. Full Spectrum Warrior wasn't Relic, was it? It was Pandemic.
No, it's Pandemic, but
okay.
They were both THQ, and
sorry, I got confused.
I know, I sorry, that was on me. It was more that Full Spectrum Warrior released the day after, so it's THQ published 2 games in 2 days.
The only reason I wanted to play Full Spectrum Warrior because it was the Battlefront people.
Yes, I liked Pandemic. Man.
Yeah.
God, what was Saboteur their last game? When did they go under?
I think Saboteur was their last game.
Yeah.
I'm going to clip out Randy saying, I like Pandemic, and then frame him.
You think they would have changed the name if they were still around?
Yeah.
Today, all right, so we have Concrete Games from France. They're focused more on casual party experiences. And Australians Blue Tongue Entertainment, bought within the same fiscal quarter. They began in 95 and did a fair share of more children's-based games, which, speaking of, the license releases definitely trucked on.
Yeah, I was looking through their
it's tough to like
their publishing list.
Yeah.
And it's like they had a money printing machine with all that licensing content. Because really, I mean, if you think about that time and that era, there was tons of licensing stuff, but everybody had a game or two.
Yeah, and you see less of that now.
Yeah.
Because it was like just like Acclaim. Like, like they had Fairly Odd Parents, more SpongeBob, Polar Express. There was an Incredibles game that achieved top seller status on Xbox, PS2, and GameCube.
That's what I was going to say, is that THQ is funny because wasn't THQ like dipping their hands in everybody's pocket?
Yeah.
Because THQ was responsible for like
every platform, too.
The DreamWorks games, but also like the Disney Pixar games.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be some conflict of interest.
And also all the Nickelodeon games as well.
Yeah.
Like direct competitors with one another were all just having their games made by THQ.
Yeah, I was blown away looking at their publishing list because there's so much there, and it's like they covered so much ground.
Yeah, it would be like a game a week.
Yeah, it's
like
like
it seems
like Over the Hedge and Shrek and Shark Tale, but also Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo, but also SpongeBob and
no, you bring up a good
Parents.
point. I don't think that would happen today.
No.
You know, like, I mean, look at the Star Wars license when then EA was like, hey, for like, for 5 years or whatever, how long it was it maybe longer, 7 years? Like, they, exclusively Star Wars games had to be published under them. But yeah, THQ, they also assisted in bringing a Banjo Racer to the Game Boy Advance after Rare's move to Microsoft.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I think it was like a repurposed Diddy Kong racing game. But another thing to note here, similar to the PS2, was THQ's constant dedication to the release of new hardware. As I said, a crummy port of Red Faction launched with the N-Gage earlier in 2004, and their terrible PictoChat knockoff on a cartridge was Ping Pals, came alongside the North American debut of the Nintendo DS that November.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ping Pals.
Yeah, I remember Ping Pals.
Who cares? Everybody just drew dicks anyway.
That's
all you ever did with it.
That's what
did
it
they
was
do
for.
that weird game where you had to like scrub love crabs off people? You remember that?
No,
game?
that was Feel the Magic, XX/XY.
God, what a sexist title.
Yeah.
So weird.
It's
Love crabs. So you draw the penis, and then there's love crabs on it, and then you have to swat them away. It's like a WarioWare game.
Yeah.
It kind of was like a warrior game, honestly. Moving into January of 2005, we got another Tale of Backlash. Love this one. But let's see if anyone can guess. My only hint being that Volition is involved.
The Punisher.
Yeah, that's right. Man, you got that like quick.
Because I knew that Volition didn't do anything between Red Faction 2 and Saints Row 1, right?
Mhm.
Except for the Punisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what was it? Was it a licensing dispute? Or?
No, actually, it's way funnier than that. So the Punisher game, a wacky and brutal third-person action adaptation of the infamous comic series of the same name, starring everyone's favorite ruthless vigilante who hates cops, but now people think he loves them for whatever reason. It's confusing. But upon sending the build to be rated, the ESRB stamped it with the seldom used adults-only label when viewing the excessive torture sequences and gore. I know there was one scene in particular with a wood chipper that they did not like.
Sounds great.
And maybe this came up on I think this has been brought up before during our hatred episode, but so I'm going to keep it simple. Basically, Microsoft and Sony have policies not to allow AO-rated stuff on their platforms, nor will retailers like Walmart and Best Buy carry them. So edits were done, or actually, I think Best Buy it's Target.
I was just gonna say, you just go back, you take that stuff out, and you get under the radar.
Kind of, yes. So edits were done. The grainy black and white filters were added over top of the heavier violence, not dissimilar to what Manhunt 2 had to do a couple years later. The changes were accepted. It got an M. Europe and Australia made additional cuts beyond that, and Germany said no fucking way, as they tend to do with things of this nature.
Tight wad.
So no biggie. The Punisher got out there. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Did you play? No, you should check it out.
No, it's like I'm thinking as you're
It's
going
probably
through
kind of
these
tame
games,
compared to shit these days.
right? And I'm going through these games, and I'm like, when I work the
Visualizing
game
the
crazy,
box
and I'm
art.
visualizing the box art
Yeah.
sitting on the shelf, and it's just something never drew it to me. you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, I actually wasn't that in the now of like who was making what, but I did play that game because it was Volition. Like I was like, it's the Red
That's what I was
Faction
gonna
games.
say. It's like
Yeah.
what draws you to it, and it's like past the cover art for me.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know much about the the source material.
Right.
But now otherwise there was other games were happening. There was an MX vs MTV game that enthusiasts seem to really
MX
like.
versus ATV.
Yeah,
What did I say?
MX versus MTV.
Yeah, they were battling off against Pauly Shore.
MXC versus MTV.
Just you're racing a music video on an ATV.
And on to another acquisition. Juice Games. They made Juiced.
Juiced?
And that's it. Originally under Acclaim in 2003 until they met their fate in 2005, this causing THQ to save the day, I guess. I mean, these guys, they're long gone now, but also for more on Acclaim, check out that topic from us last year. These stories really remind me a lot of each other, but
wait, Juice was made by Juice Games?
Yeah.
What a dumb name.
That game was also
bad.
Juice. It was a racing game. If I had,
what do you think came first, the game name or the company name?
The company name. Then they were going to make a game about juice.
Do you think Juice was going to be in the name of all of their?
Is there a more obscure title for a game? Like, I could have. The only thing that comes to mind is like an orange juice squeezing game.
Do you know what? Do you know?
But I know that's not.
Do you know what Juiced is?
No.
Okay. What kind of game do you think it is?
A workout sim.
Yeah. That either just sticking a needle in your own ass or just squeezing orange juices and trying to fill it to the top the fastest. Again, both WarioWare games. Yeah, I have no idea.
It's a street racing.
Yeah, it's a street racing game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess flying. Yeah. That makes sense. My car is juiced, man.
So, but here's a cool one to freshen us up. Destroy All Humans. Something we were just watching our buddy Dave play on stream after that remaster was released. Their relationship with Pandemic might have still been strong as the cutesy Mars Attack style human exterminating platform shooting playground of silly chaos really cemented itself in the minds of many players that gen, and enough to spawn a sequel and a re-release anyway.
Great game.
It's really fun. It can be a little bit of a slow start. The second one actually throws you in there a little faster.
Another game I like.
Never played Destroy All Humans, huh?
No, but like I watched somebody play a little bit of the remake or remaster or whatever. And it definitely looked like just a funny, silly.
It's very funny.
It is a straight B game, and the presentation reminds me a lot of like Stubbs the Zombie. Like it is like that cool.
Oh, now you're speaking my language.
Retro 50. Yeah, I know, right?
Wasn't this also around the time when they started giving the WWE games like weird story modes?
Yes. That's coming soon. Okay. I don't think it's happened yet, but that was when those.
That was very late. That generation.
Yes. Yeah. Moving on, they did publish a second Big Mother Truckers. God, I hate saying that.
Well, first one sold like hotcakes.
You see, no.
I liked 18-Wheeler, that old arcade game.
Let me explain the joke. It sounds like Big Motherfuckers.
Oh, okay.
But they're truckers.
Okay.
And they're fat.
Oh, yeah. That's piecing it together.
Yeah.
You like it now?
No.
I don't even know how to.
Sorry, THQ, I tried.
I don't know how you even sell enough to warrant the sequel. You know what I mean?
You didn't have to sell anything to warrant a sequel in those. It was the wild west.
That's
true. That is 3D gaming.
Hey, we sold 5 copies. Let's make another one.
Yeah, if we sell 5 copies and then 3 of them buy the sequel, that'll fund development.
That's crazy.
There was also Power Ranger stuff, Scooby-Doo stuff, tons of Scooby. Another MotoGP, more wrestling, an Evil Dead game. Oh, I don't.
Was it the PS2 game?
PS2 and Xbox, I believe.
Yeah. Evil Dead Regeneration?
Resurrection?
There's Road to Fiddler's Green. I think that was later. Yeah, I think it is Resurrection.
Okay.
Tak and the Power of Juju, that bad Nickelodeon video game series that later got turned into a bad Nickelodeon cartoon series.
Wow.
A Warhammer 40K expansion.
A lot of Tak and the Power of Juju hate on this podcast.
Yeah, that show fucking stinks.
Wow, okay.
I can't believe there's like a CG fucking animated series in that era that is somehow uglier than Jimmy Neutron already was. Like,
watch your mouth.
That's fucking impressive. SpongeBob. More Incredibles, despite the film sequel taking a decade and a half. Man, THQ, they were active at this point. I'm talking multiple launches a month. You don't see that anymore.
I'm looking at a list now. I'd also like to point out to our friend Melissa, who probably won't listen to this, they also published Bratz Rock Angels, which she was yelling at us last night, saying she wants to be on an episode if we ever do an episode about Bratz Rock Angels.
Why the hell?
So sorry, you missed your chance.
Yep. Y'all remember the outfit?
Hell yeah, I do.
Do you? This was their first venture into the 7th generation of consoles.
That was Relic,
From Relic,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly forgotten now. War FPSs were all over the place for a while, weren't they? But what I never played the outfit. You got anything?
It's
it's like shitty Mercenaries.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love Mercenaries 1. I was disappointed by Mercenaries 2.
Representation.
Oh, that box art, I know you know.
Yeah, it's like Green Army Men come to life. Whenever I looked at it,
That's Army Men, so just heroes.
It's
I
like
should specify it's not shitty Mercenaries, it's worse Mercenaries. It was still pretty good.
Was it better than Mercenaries 2?
Yes.
All right. More games. Quantity over quality. We got Worms. I mean, Worms is dope. Teen Titans.
we got Worms.
Pixar. We got Worms. Pixar's Cars. Monster House. Dan Harmon's and Rob Schraub's Monster House. I'm done. I can't take reading these forever.
So much licensing.
Show me a new IP. Show me 2 new IPs. The good shit already. THQ says, yeah, let's do it. Allow me to bring back our talented friends of Volition to introduce one of the best game franchises designed to be a ripoff ever.
Used to be talented, it sounds like. Go ahead.
Saints Row.
Ooh.
The Xbox 360 was just starting to really hit its stride through its second year. I mean, fuck Perfect Dark, Zero, and Quake 4. It was time for Oblivion and Gears of War, Rainbow Six
Real
Vegas,
games.
Dead
Yeah.
Rising. You know,
Those
even
are gamer games.
even Lost Planet. Fuck it.
What's wrong with Perfect Dark Zero?
How much time you have?
Okay, dude.
I can make this 12 hours if you haven't.
You like Perfect Dark? I don't get it. It's
do.
the same
I
thing.
love Perfect Dark.
They just made Joanna Dark more appealing. You know what I mean?
It's taking every ounce.
That hurt to say. You can continue.
So 2006 was an absolute banger year for the platform. I think we can all agree there. But those sons of bitches at Rockstar were just taking too damn long to give us a new GTA. That's when THQ and Volition saw the opportunity to fill the open world crime void and came in with a loud, colorful, and bold take on the genre that I personally dumped a crazy amount of hours into.
THQ do what Rockstar don't.
But something had to hold this over until Grand Theft Auto 4.
Saints Row 2 was better.
So, you know what's funny?
I think all 4 are great, but I think I might feel maybe more of a personal attachment to one.
Of course.
I definitely, vividly remember you showing that game off to me and a couple other people. Now, was it 1 or 2 that had the dildo bat?
3.
Three?
That's
Dildo
3.
bat.
Yeah.
I'll never forget.
3 is the best one.
3 is the best one.
I will never forget what a mind thinks up to make a dildo bat, and why it's the funniest thing.
The dildo bat actually comes up in the script.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
good.
I'm not kidding.
I'll let you get there.
Now, it goes without saying that Saints Row 1 probably feels pretty quaint in comparison to where the series would end up down the road, with each entry only further crafting its own identity, totally separate from what inspired it. Although, like I said, I honestly still have a bit of a soft spot in me for that first one, especially the music, which ironically is likely the main culprit as to like why in 2021 that thing still hasn't left the 360. Like it's sort of shocking to me. But this was for sure THQ's largest scale project yet. The budget and awareness exceeding any cost of a title released by them prior. And it paid off. It broke records for demo downloads, fastest selling for both the dev and the publisher. By the end of the year, it scored 2 million units sold and achieved Xbox's platinum status.
I will say, I think... All right, tell me if you can think of a better example.
All right.
In the pantheon of, like, I want to say quote-unquote, real big air quotes on this, rip-off games.
Yeah.
It's probably the best in
best
terms
one?
of quality and notoriety and
Yeah.
I would
sales
100%
record.
agree.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, we've talked
And they
about...
were shameless. Like the people who worked on it were like, yeah, like we wanted to make a GTA.
it was
But there's
totally
so
on the
many
nose,
GTA
yeah.
ripoffs.
True
in the
Crime
generation
was all right,
before.
but yeah, and some of them were good. Like I liked The Getaway and
Yeah, some of
Mafia
them
and
are
stuff.
good, but like Saints Row 1 is a GTA ripoff,
Yes. But
it's really good, and then
yeah,
it became its own thing.
exactly. That's why by the time
Entirely.
like 2 already took it like like further in that direction, but by the time you got to 3, it was uncomparable to Grand Theft Auto. You know,
it definitely carved out its own space.
Yeah,
you know?
and
'cause-
4 is a straight up superhero game.
Right.
You
I mean, I think the only other example might be Call of Duty, which was technically a Medal of Honor.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. And then get this: a week later, Company of Heroes landed on shelves. A dope World War II RTS from Relic.
Was that the same year as the outfit?
I guess so. Maybe this was their apology. Yeah, yeah, we're still in 06.
Okay.
So,
good on them.
Yeah.
I didn't know Company Heroes was that late in Relic's history. I thought that was an earlier game. I didn't know that was 360 era.
Yeah, well, that's because Company Heroes 2 came out quite some time later.
I know.
But no, but you're right. And Red Faction's long-standing moment in the Metacritic sun was over as Company of Heroes took the top spot for THQ's newest, highest-rated child star. Or Star Child. I don't know if anyone else here has more to say. I loved the way that this game handled like about Company Heroes. The way it just combat for an RTS. There was a cover system and destructible buildings. I never saw anything like that in real-time strategy before. It was killer.
It has a
all the squad,
they kind of picked up and ran with the advantage that Command & Conquer had, which is that, you have your... I know these aren't the only two, but you can essentially divide most RTSs into your StarCrafts and your Warcrafts. You got sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
And there weren't very many people making... military RTSs.
I get the only ones I can think of are the older Spec Op games.
Yeah.
But those weren't, they didn't have base building.
Yeah.
And then Sudden Strike, but also that, I don't think that did either. They didn't have resource gathering.
Yeah.
And Company of Heroes was more focused on the action than that as well, but
it was in an era,
stood out.
Absolutely cluttered with World War II first-person shooters.
But
nobody really made...
No, that's a good point.
I mean, people made World War II RTSs, but not on that scale and budget.
And not with that presentation.
And it was mostly the Company of Heroes was a PC game, right?
Yes.
So you're kind of sectioning it off. Yeah, that's a
very because
I don't want to say it was niche because it definitely wasn't niche.
No, but war shooters were mostly at that point.
Yeah, everything had shifted. Or at least it felt like there was a big shift in focus from something like a strategy game to just FPS.
No, 100%. And it's by the way, it sold super well, enough to get multiple expansions. And in our subject today, they were finally nearing that pedigree that other AAA companies such as EA and Ubisoft were flaunting. I
love THQ.
I kind of do.
Can we gush about them for a little bit?
Yeah.
What a company! in the era where, of course, THQ shut down, but in the era that they shut down, the late 360 era, everybody was becoming so risk averse. Everything was becoming so sterile and boring, and it's just they were just nah, dude, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think towards that end of that generation is when you started to see less chances being taken.
Yes,
games,
exactly.
They didn't put
the industry got
a budget on the line and just hang it out to dry and see, what it gets.
Exactly. And they did this up until the end. Me too.
Maybe not all these games we talked about so far were for me, or they never really appealed to me.
No, I mean they're not all great, but me and Randy have been to varying levels going back and revisiting these two generations, and because THQ did Splatterhouse, didn't they? Was that them?
I think Splatterhouse was Sega.
Was it?
I think you're right.
Oh. Well,
I mean, it's still reflective of it's still reflective of your point, and that was a weird experiment, of
That's just a Gorpor game. I guess you can only get away with so much. Up.
Namco Bandai. Okay.
Namco.
Close enough.
Yeah.
But it's just that weird era of games where I don't know, I feel like a studio look at Relic, right?
Yeah.
You know what Relic is currently working on? Age of Empires 4.
I was just gonna say I've seen their company logo, little splash screen thing happen recently, and I was like, why do I remember that?
When I was doing research on this episode, I was going back and looking at also look at a list of published titles by EA or Ubisoft, like companies who are still around today, and there's like all of these crazy shit, and then it gets to like 3 games a year, and they're all the same long-running sequels that were born from, like the 360 PS3 era.
Yeah, they saw.
And it's like fucking depressing. Like we just did you watch EA's State of Play? Not State of Play. EA Play
with us.
Yeah, something like that. And it was like
kids, play with us.
They taught. It's like there's like an hour-long presentation dedicated to 3 titles. Yeah. And you're just like, man, do you remember that all you have to do is go back 2 gens and there was like shit like Dante's Inferno. It's something like EA would never like.
It's funny, and that's one of the things that kind of like bums me out about more modern presentations, and like, it's because it is so thin. And unless you're super in on one of the titles that they're announcing,
totally, then it doesn't mean anything to you, right?
Yeah, like for this year, I passed over a lot of presentations.
I don't blame you.
And it's kind of like I just kind of got an overview, or they went through everything. It's like they weren't teasing any special announcements, or maybe they did at the end or something like that. But it's like Microsoft, for me, like this year, just like it's just game.
That's what they do. They have consistently the best show every year, and people still hate them.
Their pockets are the deepest.
Sure, but like,
and they're supporting a console.
It's a combination of them being thin, which is like, I get thin because games cost a lot of money and there's a lot riding on them, whatever, but also wholly uninteresting, really, and predictable.
Right.
I think
that's the ultimate.
Because like when you're EA and you're doing your 2021 big E3 presentation, which also is a month fucking late, but you're doing your big E3 2021 presentation. And even the 2020 presentation, because the 2020 presentation, their big like, and one more thing at the end was like, hey, I'm a dude in a backwards baseball cap. We're making Skate again.
Yeah.
And they're only making Skate as a response to people that
right.
But also, all we have is a logo,
Skate,
and we literally just started hiring people.
It's not exciting.
And then they're like...
They did it this year with Dead Space.
Yeah, that's
Dead
what I'm
Space
saying.
Fucking rules.
2021, they're like, we're remaking Dead Space 1.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Just instead, why don't you...
It's too risky to make 4.
Do what Visceral did and make something
that
cool.
Like their weird
not even an original Dead Space.
Yeah.
Make something like Dead Space. Something that like, because Visceral is a really good, I know we're going off topic on THQ a little bit, but
didn't Visceral, was that born out of Eurocom?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And there was like, and that was always cool to see, because, I mentioned, like, Dante's Inferno, which was Visceral, and it was like...
That's really funny you bring that up, because that's definitely a game I want to go back to and revisit.
I love Dante's Inferno.
And it's like, that game is so different than Dead Space in every way.
Yeah.
Like, it
was very God of War
because you have me thinking about...
Adjacent.
Visceral's very good analog to Volition.
Yeah.
Or early on in their... Because EA ruined them, and they made Battlefront Hardline, and then they shut them down.
Which they didn't want to make that game anyway.
No, they didn't. But like, you had like Dead Space, and then they did Dante's Inferno, which is nothing like it. It's like the comparison between Red Faction and Saints Row, right?
Yeah, totally.
And then like you get to I don't know.
God, if Volition was under EA's reign now, they'd be shuttered.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know, man.
And not even to pick on EA. I mean, like
I said this before to Randy, is like THQ Nordic isn't the same thing, but they're trying to be.
They are.
And I do appreciate it.
I do too. Even if the game output hasn't been amazing.
Yeah, because like when they made Biomutant, I was telling Randy, I was like, this game doesn't look good.
Right.
But it looks interesting.
But it looks like an old THQ product.
Yeah.
Right.
It looks like something that would have come out of that era.
You know what's so funny?
You're not grading it like it's a Last of Us 2 or Red Dead 2. You're grading it like it's this...
I was looking at that game recently, and there's something about that game that just draws me to it, right?
Yeah.
And then when the game came out, and it got not so great reviews or mediocre reviews, it was like this thing that they were pumping for a long time, and then it finally comes out, and it's like, maybe play it, buy it on sale type of thing. But it's like there is definitely something alluring about it.
It's so weird.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a good another good example. I said this is a very random moment here, but Ubisoft published 13, right?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, I love that game. It's not great, but it is so striking and different that people remembered it enough.
Yeah.
That it, that it still gets like brought up. I mean, there's literally a clip of it in that FPS documentary trailer. Like, it's like this weird like pursuit of safe, like, you know what I mean? It's like Battlefield, the 2042. I think it looks cool, but like if you're not into that, it's just like, man, that EA thing would have been like, you would not.
I don't know. Like
they're not trying to sell or bring new people onto.
I don't want to be too down on it because there are a lot of cool games coming out, but it just seems like.
And even with that game specifically, the Portal stuff seems interesting. It's just like
it's the reason why if you listen to our E3 episode, like me and Randy spend probably a decent chunk of time talking about Devolver, and that's because those indie publishers,
Annapurna,
Devolver, stuff like that, have become
yes
the THQ.
Yeah,
it's a funny dichotomy. I was actually thinking about recently. I was like scrolling through like on GameStop, because I have some games I want to trade, and I'm scrolling through, and I'm like, man, I'm click PS5. Looking through the list, it's like handful of remakes or remasters, and then
a lot of that.
And I get it. Games are very technically advanced now, and it's hard to push stuff out faster. A quality product, this that. It's a big risk versus reward, but it's like, man, that indie games. There's like a new great indie game coming out like every week.
Yeah,
and these publishers and
they're not. It's not like always like we're starting to get to the age, because I'm thinking about this. We were talking about Death's Door last night. Like, we're starting to get to the age where, like, we're getting sophomore efforts from indies. Because indies take forever to make games, which is, there's not that many people working on them, so it makes sense. But, like, I had that thing where I played Death's Door, and I was like, this is great. And I was like, oh, this is the Titan Souls people.
Right.
It makes sense. It took them 7 years to make, but, like, it makes sense.
So why doesn't, like, it's like... to go back to EA for just real quick.
This is the EA episode.
They published, they do their EA Originals line, right? And this year they released It Takes Two, which was a game that like reviewed really well.
Right.
I don't know, like if it hit the sales that EA wanted, but it seemed pretty fucking successful, and that's great. Well. I was happy to see that.
You know what else did surprisingly well?
What's that?
The other EA original, Knockout City.
Oh, really?
Because I played Knockout City. Did you play Knockout City?
They have that Lost in Random game that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
But but
cool.
Right, but like there's still
interesting. It was definitely interesting.
This stuff is working and EA still isn't listening. No. Like they only do like one of these every once in a while.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like we talked about this before, but we're like, why don't like there's a third party department working at Ubisoft and EA and these other publishers of just like, why don't you just find more studios like that and fucking help them out, give them some money, and like everybody wins, But
yeah, it's you give these companies room to explore and also room to experiment a little bit.
Yeah,
and sometimes you strike gold. There's definitely
they're so afraid of failure though.
It's a definite
it is this
risk
weird
versus reward system
because a couple people are doing this, like a good
because like EA and Ubisoft like don't. Well, I guess bombs still get published every once in a while, but not like back then. Here, it's just like
they definitely don't market it to be a bomb.
Well, you have like studios. Like a good example is Take-Two, right?
I mean, I still bet Anthem and like Mass Effect Andromeda and Hyperscape pulled in some money.
Sure, but like Take-Two started Private Division.
Oh yeah,
which was supposed to be like their Devolver. And then, like, they've published 5 games, I believe, which was, like, that Disintegration game, which bombed horribly, Ancestors, which bombed horribly, Outer Worlds, which did great, but then now Microsoft owns it because Microsoft bought Obsidian.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And then and then now they own Kerbal, and they're publishing Kerbal 2.
Actually, I think
space stuff.
A good comparison with THQ might be 505 right now. Like they publish Control and stuff like that, and I think like the PC version of like Death Stranding and stuff.
Yeah.
So like we might start to see this again finally, but
well, yeah, I feel like the AA publisher died, so the triple I publisher could flourish.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, it's just a push. It's a gap of investment. That's pretty much the only difference.
Be on the lookout, listeners. We're going to be back in this room talking about Midway at some point. All right, so no, we're about a point in the story where they want to look for more in-house development. People are digging these original properties, as it turns out. This was when they set their eyes on an up-and-comer called Vigil Games.
Hell yeah, Vigil Games.
Formed a year ago in 2005 in Austin, Texas. It was started by comic book artist Joe, I'm going to butcher this name, Maduria and David Adams. They staffed up and got hard to work on something that we will revisit momentarily. Shortly after this, there was Chaos Studios with a K was founded, run out of New York City. THQ hired core members of Trauma Studios, the team behind the popular Desert Combat mod for Battlefield 1942.
What's up with these studio names?
That Electronic Arts shut down.
What's up with these studio names? Pandemic, Trauma.
Yeah,
it was a different time.
It's like not.
Yes.
You don't associate the and we'll get to their stuff in a bit too.
Headwound Studios.
But it didn't stop here. They opened up a sub in Warrington, England, along with Incinerator in California for more racing stuff.
Hell yeah.
They also got Paradigm.
Paradigm.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's a dumb word.
Yeah.
Epitaph.
They're another Texan who honestly did a respectable job of evolving graphics and tech in the field since their formation in 1990. Pilot Wing 64, Beetle Adventure Racing, the Spy Hunter reboot, which I very much enjoyed.
Okay.
They were a decent group. Sorry, Spy Hunter, not the movie game one. I'm talking about the
PS2 one.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I thought.
In 2007, Mass Media Games from California was acquired. They've been doing their thing since the 80s, apparently. Then into the 90s, it was with titles for the CDI. Fuck yeah. Some DOS projects, StarCraft 64. Several Namco and Pac-Man collections, former topic. GBA editions of old Blizzard classics like Rock and Roll Racing and The Lost Vikings. This leading all the way to the Bible game. Austin, care to tell the fine listeners at home about that hot piece?
I've seen this. Again,
it's great.
I've seen a lot of games.
It's a trivia game about the Bible, but every once in a while there's mini games.
Like Mario Party style.
Like Mario Party style, and they play awesome music behind the mini games. Really sweet, awesome rock music that's awesome.
Yeah, not at all being facetious.
I won. The one.
All right,
I know so much about the Bible.
You know more about the Bible
Ask
than
me a question about the Bible.
Who wrote it?
Matthew, Mark, Paul, Luke, John. One of those is wrong because there's only 4.
What's its Metacritic
Leviticus.
score?
The Bible?
Yeah.
100, baby. No flaws.
I think that user rating's pretty low.
That aside, in response of their parent company, Time Warner, halting their interactive division, Mass Media went independent, and then in early 2007, THQ scooped them up, helped them publish a middling version of Tetris with Evolution. But that March, Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl finally saw its launch.
That's the Tetris snob
the
alarm,
Tetris snob
everybody.
alarm?
Is that the S?
That was a 360.
Yeah, do you know what that stands for?
No, what does it stand
It
for?
does
Hold
have
on.
a meaning.
You have to look it up.
It's an acronym.
Stealth.
It yeah, it is.
Nope.
Stalker. First encounter insult recon.
Acronym.
Is that?
No, that's fear.
Oh.
Scaven-
Come on.
Scavengers, trespassers, adventurers, loners, killers, explorers, and robbers.
Yeah, fit that on the box.
That's what Stalker stands for.
So this game, this followed a lengthy production that it unfortunately did have its fair share of bugs, even upon release, especially with Vista. But that didn't stop it from clicking hard with a unique audience of those willing to dive into its mysterious world.
And Stalker 2 looks fucking bomb.
Yeah, Stalker 2
it
looks
does.
awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Stalker 2 looks bomb.
I'm
as
very
shit.
Stalker's
excited.
one of those things like if you're vague, generally familiar with games, I feel like you've heard it, and if you're like me, you've never played it because it was
no.
I played a little bit of
feel
it.
the same way,
I thought
yeah.
it was interesting.
Yeah.
It was flawed, but interesting. I kind of enjoyed what I saw. It is it can be impenetrably difficult.
Oh, of course.
But
listen, Randy, living in the shadow of Chernobyl ain't easy.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so going back to those acquisitions and formations, when you add all of them together, including their mobile friends in Finland under Universamo, THQ had a whopping 22 studios under them working full time. Half of them like primaries. By May 2007, they would report its record high figures and net profits of over $1 billion.
We've reached the golden age.
Killing it.
And this, of course, meant more games.
Money makes money.
They published a new entry to Stuntman with Ignition. That was a cool game. I like Stuntman. More motorcycle sims, more wrestling. Drawn to Life for the DS. That's neat. Juice 2. Who cares?
Okay.
Avatar, not James Cameron's. Conan, Ratatouille, another MX vs. ATV. Said it right that time. Handheld Warhammers, Frontline Fuels of War.
That was Chaos, right?
Woof. That was Chaos, yeah. Wally de Blob on iOS was a big success. They were now hard in the mobile space. Saints Row 2, this time multi-platform. So releases everywhere.
Yeah, they're killing it.
Yeah.
They're again on every platform, making money from everyone.
So much that Maryland developers Big Huge Games named THQ their parent company here as well. The people behind, say it, Austin.
Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning.
Yeah, the first hot button topic ever. They also did Rise of Nations, I believe. So, of course, like Kingdoms of Amalur wouldn't be till years later, but still, for more on them, check
out our first episode.
Our pilot.
Yeah.
Lots of notable people within those walls. But it was looking pretty damn good for our once toy manufacturer. However, nothing lasts forever. Most notably when it isn't this sustainable. And here, my friends, is just about when we are going to get into the genesis of their downfall. And boy, there's going to be some wins here, but and they're like, don't get me wrong, but bad decisions after bad decisions are inbound. Why we're here today.
You stopped at Saints Row 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a game that came out right after Saints Row 2 that THQ published. And if you say it's part of their downfall, I'm going to leap across this room and punch you in the fucking...
All right, we'll find out. We'll find out. Now, here's the thing. It wasn't all their fault. We're in late 07 going into 08 now, so, I mean, y'all remember what else happened then?
No.
The biggest recession since the Great Depression.
I was going to say, the bubble popped, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't,
What happened?
Oh, wait.
The housing market.
That. So this combined with a slight decline in game sales led to the closure of a bunch of those internal studios in November of 2008. 5 to be exact. Paradigm, Mass Media, Helix, Locomotive, and Sandblast.
Paradigm.
You fucking... As much of a blow that this was, some cool fucking releases were still coming out. Problem was, they weren't selling the way they were before. Few things were. There's Deadly Creatures for the Wii. Was a fascinating attempt at something different. Anyone ever hear about this? Rainbow made it. You play as a spider or scorpion or whatever.
Again.
And you battle snakes and rats and shit. Billy Bob Thornton and fucking Dennis Hopper starred in it.
Again,
it's real weird.
Man. Literally, I'm standing in Game Crazy looking at the shelf.
Wall.
And I'm like, what a crazy box.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it now. It's just a snake going after a spider. Oh, what a that is such an experiment.
Yeah, we need to find a copy of this. Speaking of weird, and what is perhaps the strangest fucking narrative set up to a game ever, as evident by how much it comes up on our show, 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. The largely improved sequel to the first iteration where our rapper turned super soldier gets sent to the Middle East to retrieve the crystal skulls. Was that it?
No, he goes to a concert. He has a concert in the Middle East. And he's going to get paid in crystal skulls.
I can't believe I never played this.
But they don't pay him. So then
problems
him and the rest of G Unit gotta find this guy. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
What a game.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's part of their downfall?
Well, it didn't.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and speaking of sequels, Warhammer 40K Dawn of War 2, highly regarded, I hear, especially for my one roommate. Also to Blob on consoles, expansions to Company Heroes, and Saints Row 2, Altor's back. Aside from a poor Destroy All Human side game, all these were performing great critically, just not commercially. I think other than Dawn of War 2, like, they all undersold. In fact, this soon amounted to THQ pawning off big, huge games to 38 studios, as well as convert Heavy, Iron, and Incinerator into being independent. The only landmark successes this whole season were Yuke's UFC 2009 Undisputed, coming from an agreement with the Ultimate Fighting Championship organization in 2007, while the second was none other than Red Faction Guerrilla, a now third-person follow-up to Red Faction 2, and it was really fucking good. Nice use of open world. The improved destruction engine for structures was, like, amazing. You know, nothing like walking a mech through an entire building and watching it fall apart. Incredible tech, even if the story and multiplayer were, you know, lackluster. What'd you guys think of
Guerrilla rules?
Yeah.
I didn't realize Guerrilla and Saints Row 2 were that close together.
Yeah, because they did some crossover stuff with their DLCs, which is
because their Saints. There wasn't the Saints Row, one of the Saints Row 2 DLCs,
it's
the
Altor.
one where Altors gets involved.
Yeah. They do a very coy, like, Doom Wolfenstein sort of like. You had to have played Guerrilla, right, Sean?
Yeah, I played, and for how long? A little bit different, but I do remember playing Guerrilla, and
you should play that. You
can play the remastered edition.
Remastered.
Yeah, you know what? No, I do remember, because I remember most fun I had in that game was taking the sledgehammer and just going around the bottom of a building and just smacking it all out until it all toppled and collapsed. I do remember. I wasted a lot of time. I wasn't paying attention.
That game invites you to waste time, though. Right. That's like, you know, like, they want you to do that.
It's definitely like, ooh, cool. Look what this does. It's like, it's very, that physics engine is very cool to mess around in.
Now, the problem was 2 spikes in profit wasn't going to be enough. So while the old standbys of licensed stuff still continued, like Pixar's Up and, I don't know, more SpongeBob, they did try their hands at free-to-play with a different GTA-style shooter made in the Ukraine called Crimecraft.
I remember Crimecraft.
Yeah, it had a shitty business model and wasn't worth it anyways. But going forward, there was the next chapter in the Drawn to Life series. It's Drawn to Life, the next chapter. I'm not sure what they could have added outside of already being able to draw up your own main character. Although this might have been the game that had that insane fucking ending that they had to, like, go back and patch.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so running off from memory here. The Drawn to Life sequel, I think at the end you find out it's, like, kind of all a dream and that you died. Like, it's like you're like a little girl and her little brother, and the little brother, like, falls and hits his head and gets, like, into a coma, and he, like, and then they were like, this is kind of dark, so they, like, re-put it back out on DS and then made it way happier. I don't know.
Yes.
Two Realms? Is that the sequel, Two Realms?
No, yeah, here it is. The hero returns with Heather, who is now without her dark side.
I can't believe I remember this.
The screen turns black to white. The same description of that night is displayed. Heather prays for her little brother. God, just bring back my little brother. During the ending credits, a series of still photos of the events of that night are shown, which depict Heather, Mike, and their parents going home from a carnival and eventually being involved in a car crash.
Yeah, see, there it is.
That's wild.
Although the fate of the parents is left ambiguous, the sequel, Drawn to Life, Two Realms, confirms that they died. Heather sustains minor injuries and her brother Mike goes into a coma. Heather prays that her brother is to wake up. Later, Mike wakes up from his coma, and Heather hugs him out of joy. The final photo shows doll versions of Joey and Mari that were won at the carnival. An alternate ending is present in the Drawn to Life collection due to the originals being considered too dark.
It's like,
these
Jesus
are DS
fucking
games.
Christ, rated E for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, they're kids.
Trauma in all forms.
Then there's more wrestling, Worlds of Zoo, whatever that is, and MX versus ATV Reflex. If it's not obvious, many of these didn't particularly light the planet on fire or keep it warm as towards the back half of the year. The winning numbers caused THQ to form a plan to trim $220 million in annual costs by 2010 and invest in, quote, fewer, better bets, which they honestly sort of already were on track with, just not drastically.
I know something that came out in 2010.
Yeah? All right, and then let's see if it comes up. So despite previous reports showing that they were once even close to fucking Activision in terms of net value, we're talking like that, that billion in revenue.
Yeah, it's crazy.
68 mil in profit. Though these big budget releases, regardless of solid reviews, were not, they weren't paying off to the degree that they desperately needed with the ongoing economic collapse. Their strategy of cutting out the shovelware while going ahead with the real video games was commendable. It showed respect for the medium at least, but still it was risky. The first example of this was that many of the extra titles based off children's properties would be put on hold. A smart decision as younger audiences began to shift their attention towards like free online and browser apps, like right from Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, like directly. No need to fund the full price products anymore. But this wasn't all they had to do. After all, shares were still down 86% from the last year. The company itself holding its spot on the market at 173 million. So low that there was a possibility they could be acquired themselves. Now, a few months back, before I forget, they did make one final acquisition for an experienced team from San Diego that used to work first party under Midway, the third piece in their B game publisher trilogy. Eventually, keep an eye out. And if you're probably curious why do this while in the middle of hurting for cash, well, that's because the purchase was for a measly 200 G's, and these guys were no amateurs either. We're talking the artist that brought us Doom 64, Hydro Thunder, Off-Road Challenge, Ready to Rumble Boxing, and also Freaky Flyers and Gauntlet 7 Sorrows. They were terrible, but hey, they did do the home versions of MK3, Cruis'n USA, Rampage World Tour, Quake, and NFL Blitz. I'd say it's a fucking sweet deal.
Yeah.
Not to mention the sale included the assets to everything they worked on outside of TNA Impact, likely due to the rights of the featured wrestlers.
Yeah, that's a good get.
But moving right into 2010 officially, we got our first higher profile release in a while.
This is the one I was thinking of. Can I say it?
Yeah, Vigil Games.
Darksiders.
Yep. They were prepping their debut. A hack and slash adventure centered around the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. You were War in this one, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So yeah, I never got to play Darksiders. It's funny because my one roommate is going through the remaster right now, but I know you guys have some feelings.
I love Darksiders.
Yeah.
Darksiders 1 is great.
Yeah, we'll get to 2 later as well, but I want to know about 1.
Hitting back on that whole, making ripoffs but doing it right thing that I was talking about with Saints Row.
Mm-hmm.
Darksiders 1 is potentially the best non-Zelda game I've ever played.
Yeah, and you're not the first person that has told me that for sure.
No, I completely agree.
And it's it's shameless, dude. It's Zelda, but they just keep throwing mechanics from other games of the time in. There's a portal gun in it and shit.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Because I was not only are I know you guys feeling strong, but many critics as well. They praising its combination of. I got Devil May Cry, God of War, and like you said,
it's
Zelda.
Fucking, it's Zelda with Devil May Cry combat. It's really good. It's I don't know how much
they left their mark.
More I can say about it than that, but the art style, like you said, I forget that dude's name, but it's the Battle Chasers guy.
Yes, yeah.
Who helped found Vigil. Right. His art is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That box art sells itself.
Right. Yeah, it was so engaging, and that's one of those things where I remember playing it and being totally immersed. And for me, growing up, I wasn't a N64, so the early Legend of Zeldas or even SNES to N64, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, stuff like that, never really appealed to me. And this game, it was definitely more the art style, like you were saying, just appealed to me.
So cool.
The story was appealing, and it was good gameplay, good mechanics. It was an overall package.
And that does seem like something that THQ would, take a gamble on.
Yeah, and also a very safe bet because I don't know, Vigil proved themselves obviously, but the conceit of Darksiders is that it takes place during the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And you play as one of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, War. But the other 3 are mentioned.
Yeah.
So it sets itself up really well for sequels.
Other entries, yeah.
Which it did, because you play as Death in 2, and then you play as Fury in 3, and then you play as Strife in 4.
Right, because it's not Famine
Genesis,
and
right?
No, it's their own interpretation of it.
Yeah, and Pestilence, the other one.
Pestilence.
Pestilence
Hey.
was 2, right?
No, well, they
So
don't
you throw
Jesus
me into the
Christ.
Bible.
It's death, war, death, famine, and pestilence are the Bible, the biblical
Yeah, yeah.
4 horsemen of the apocalypse. But in this, it's war, which is Darksiders 1, death, which is Darksiders 2, fury, which is Darksiders 3, and then strife, which is Darksiders Genesis.
Right.
Oh, I thought Genesis was more of a spinoff,
No, it's a sequel.
but the gameplay is like different. I mean,
It is
same with Darksiders 3
Well, also Genesis is
when it became a Dark Souls.
2-player drop in, drop out co-op, and it's
Yeah.
war and strife.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that February, Juice Games and Rainbow were rebranded, but then March, and sorry, now it's shifting back to my turn. March sang the beginning of the Metro franchise. Like also, pretty fucking punk rock. It was based off the Russian novel by Dmitry Glukhovsky.
That dude rules.
Yeah, who I believe was like, involved like quite a bit in the production of the adaptation himself.
I think I said this in our Discord, but like, he is such a weird parallel to The Witcher.
Yeah.
Because the dude that wrote the Witcher books fucking hates the games to the point where they made
the thing that put him on the map.
Yeah, when they made the Netflix series of The Witcher, he's like, "Don't you dare fucking use those games. Use my books." And they were like, "Okay." And they had to do like subtle nods to the games because Henry Cavill,
That's why everybody,
like everybody else, is a fan of the game and not the book because he's not fucking Polish.
Yeah.
Aren't those books not? Isn't like the first book not translated? Or
Yeah, so I'm
something
saying
like
it's in Polish.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah. But
Barrier to
this guy,
Hey,
our former
friend-
guest
yeah,
Andrew
that was
told us
amazing.
this guy speaks 12 languages, so he
Right.
translated the book in 12 different languages
remember
by
reading
himself.
that.
That's
And
rad.
also,
He loves his fans, too.
Fucking
Yeah.
loves the games.
Yeah.
he loves them.
And he's not alone because I do too.
Yeah.
I loved Metro 2033, although admittedly I didn't jump into it until its Redux
Same.
version that
Same.
came out a few
Yes.
years.
To be fair,
after.
I never played Redux. I didn't beat 1 because it is a little rough.
Okay.
Redux is 2033. Redux is
It's done in the
redone-
style of its direct sequel of Last Light.
It's in the engine for Last
Oh,
Light.
okay.
And
I thoroughly
Sean-
enjoyed both of them.
Sean,
Yeah, me
I think
too, me
Sean
too.
mentioned this before, but like that's on my like what would
That's
the
when you-
term be? The list of shame.
Yeah.
Like I always, it's always the Metro series is always in the back of my mind. And like
Darksiders is mine.
I own
yeah.
them all. I should just go back and play them.
And they still hold up. Like,
'Cause,
I
like,
recommend it.
That is such, again, like Darksiders is like the sale. Like, tell me if this accurately describes you guys. They were like, somebody was like, it takes place in the Russian apocalypse and everybody lives underground and they use bullets as currency. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm in.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm in.
That's such
That's
a
exactly
great
the same
setup
for me.
Yeah.
Don't need to hear anything else.
Those
Right.
fucking gnarly, like, weird weapons you use. It's like a bike pump attached to
Yeah.
a revolver, and you're like,
Yeah,
you're like-
a game like you
So
said,
cool.
I didn't play at initial release, but then went back and played when
Yeah.
they reiterated on it, and I absolutely fell in love with that game.
Yeah.
Setting, aesthetic, the whole vibe. It's just this horror
Atmosphere.
Yeah.
atmosphere. Perfect word.
That-
If you want a
those
very
games-
atmospheric, like non-open world survival shooter, like, and they're paced so well, like they're nice and tight. They're
Those
not like
games
overly long.
Nail
like,
atmosphere in
Yeah.
a way that very few
They got
video
you
games
covered.
can.
undoubtedly.
Like the needing to wear the mask when you go to the surface, and then if you get shot, the mask cracks.
yeah, and you gotta wipe it off.
you have like
too,
an
yeah.
oxygen meter, and you gotta wipe the sweat
Yeah.
off, and like you don't use a flashlight.
Yeah,
You use a lighter, and you
Shut
can
up.
like burn stuff with
I
it.
gotta
Oh.
ask, did you play it in Russian?
No, no,
I did.
no.
I love that shit.
Yeah, I like the funny accents and all the dialogue.
So here's what's funny, like both Darksiders and Metro's profits weren't spectacular out of the gate. Positive word of mouth helped significantly in each case.
Yeah.
So like, but by that spring, like, it's weird how long the tails ended up being on those games, because like people are still discovering that series both like either now.
Oh
But-
yeah, no, I did not play Darksiders or
When it came
Metro
out.
at launch.
Yeah.
For me, Darksiders was, I believe, shortly after it came out, and
I played
Metro
Darksiders
was like years.
Because I
later.
know I played Darksiders on PC, and I believe Darksiders didn't come out on PC at launch.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to. It was PS3, Xbox.
Yeah, and then
era.
later, it was on PC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because then you got the War Edition or War Master Edition.
What?
It was on PC and you gonna get there?
Oh yes, I am. Don't worry, that's actually coming up very soon.
Because you know where the first place I ever played Metro 2033 was
on that, really?
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
You'll get
that's
to it.
funny. All right, yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Oh, fuck, that's hilarious. I had no idea you had a firsthand experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the thing is, it's like there was another entry in the UFC series that gained a bit of traction on the sales charts, but like, you know, like again, like unfortunately, it's just like Darksiders and Metro, like people had to rap behind the scenes about how cool they were. Like when they just dropped, nobody really knew what they were.
Right.
You know, like out of the gate. Both those titles, like they needed like, you know, the behind the scenes loving. Like, you know, it's like when they first dropped, there wasn't an expectation, but it's like
Behind the Scenes Lovin' is a good 70s album.
Yeah. For Pacific
Coast Power and Light presents Behind the Scenes Lovin'. Yeah.
If I could only go back in time, I'd have a Billboard #1.
I also should specify that here's ex-CEO Jack Friedman. He passed away in May
2010.
It was he's
due to lack of people to yell at.
yeah, at age 70. As I mentioned, but skipping over
Cool guy.
more of the cheap shovelware, we finally have our biggest smoking gun. Anyone want to guess? I feel like you know it.
Smoking gun?
Yeah, what if I did this?
You draw.
Oh yeah.
I took my vape and that's right.
Yeah.
The U-Draw game tablet.
Jeez. So this is 2010.
This is 2010.
Okay. So yeah, about 11 years ago. Yeah. So you reminded me of this, and I completely had forgotten about it. And you're like, how did you not? You worked in a game store when this happened, and I was like, oh yeah.
I mean, that has to be telling, right?
We had to gut these boxes, and I forget what they retailed for. But now after you like brought it up and reminded me of what it was.
Oh, don't worry. I know how much it retailed for.
It's just, I remember it now.
It was revealed that August as a drawing accessory for the Nintendo Wii. This in the midst of an era where specialized plastic peripherals were slightly on their way out from previously dominating the market. You know, your Rock Bands and Guitar Heroes and what have you. But it would allow players to use a tethered stylus on a mini digital notepad controller. It was to be $70, and house the Wiimote right in it. You could clamp it in there. And most of all, THQ stated that new software would launch every couple months to support it. Initial reactions honestly weren't bad. It seemed more like child-focused, and there was for sure a demographic for that. In fact, once reviews were later posted on its premiere pack-in that arrived in November, U-Draw Studio, many of those in the press were quick to point out its accessibility, durability, and clean design.
And also, it's kind of an impressive product for $70.
Sure. No, yeah.
Because those tablets for your computer are not $70. They are way more.
Yeah. So despite the actual game portion maybe not landing the scores they had hoped for, many analysts thought the idea was promising, going as far as saying it could, quote, sell millions of units as a sort of sleeper hit of the upcoming holiday season. Little did they know, these estimates would be a key factor in their eventual sinking, even if it's not exactly how many people label it, looking back today. We'll get to what I mean there in a sec. Because U-Draw on the Wii, not a failure. It was performing fine. Same with their latest WWE join and Double Fine's Costume Quest.
Cute game.
Yeah. Going through their formal gameography, however, that was basically it for the remainder of the year. Post-Christmas and into 2011, it was announced that THQ was selling off its wireless division to a Swedish mobile company called 24 Mas.
Swedish?
Yeah.
Mas? Okay. 24 Mas.
Yeah. They also revealed a slicker logo to replace the old one. I prefer the old one, just saying. But some respectable-ass games were still continuing to drop. There was Stacking.
Also Double Fine.
Yeah, there was cute little puzzle title from Double Fine once again, as you said. The reboot of the often hilarious party trivia game, You Don't Know Jack. That, of course, later went on to spawn an absolutely wonderful treasure trove of spin-offs. I can't recommend those enough to just about everyone.
Amazing party
Can
games.
you imagine
its
if
use of a smart device browser for the interface was tremendously brilliant.
Can you imagine if THQ was around to like reap the benefits
I
of
know!
publishing You Don't Know Jack?
Right? Holy
This
shit.
Jackbox is killing it right now.
Wait, so
Yeah.
that's when the first You Don't Know Jack came out?
Yeah.
And
no.
Oh.
No,
The reboot.
The reboot.
Oh, the
Yeah,
reboot.
because it was it was
it's
released in the 90s initially.
Yeah, it's a
But when
90s series.
right,
They brought
okay,
back
'cause I
Cookie.
remember the board game
Yeah.
version of it, but they did the
They published
phone
the
integration.
first. Yeah.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that phone stuff is fucking.
It's so good.
It's so good. To the point that Sony couldn't figure that shit out with
Yeah.
their whatever that line of PS4 stuff was. They had That's You and Hidden Agenda.
What was that called?
Don't remember.
I don't know.
Then there was De Blob 2,
Mhm.
an expansion to Dawn of War 2. But then, gentlemen, that March, it was our second smoking gun. John, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. The heavily promoted AAA attempt to overthrow Call of Duty, Chaos's home front.
Oh,
A resistance-themed
Yes.
FPS that did not earn back what was demanded of it in the slightest.
man. Yeah, I remember pretty well my experience with that game.
I mean, I do, because
unfortunately.
I saw it in your living room. That's the most hands-on experience that I had.
Yeah,
with it.
I think this was about the time where we like started like signing out games.
Yeah, so did you just like sign out everything you could for
I
a
think that's
while?
why I have like very short hour to 2 hour
like it's
memories
just
of
random
stuff.
achievements from like all
It
my-
really is. At that time,
Yeah.
it like I would get really bored with games. But I remember
It's a
this
good
game.
perk though.
There was this mission under a bridge, and the game. First of all, the game gave me very Freedom Fighters vibes.
Yeah, totally in that imagery. That's
It definitely felt like a
love
new,
Freedom
modern
Fighters.
take on that. Which
Yeah.
I love Freedom Fighters, and
totally.
and then when I got down and I sat down and played it, I was just taken aback. I remember being on this map. There was a bridge. There was tanks. There was turrets, sandbags. You know, it was totally of the time they were trying to
Yeah.
capture. And I was like, where is the next? Where do everything's dead. Everybody's dead. I'm alone in this bunkered out area. And I was like, where do I go? And it's just, looking back now, it was not very impressive.
Yeah. So like the presentation was intriguing, but the short campaign and decent though derivative multiplayer became like primary criticisms that supposedly resulted in a 26% fall in THQ stock price.
Did you beat it?
No.
I beat it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
How long was it?
Not very long.
Yeah.
8 hours.
What did you?
No, it's okay.
Okay. All right.
Really?
The multiplayer sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the game wasn't great.
I
But
feel
the
like
story's cool.
I like the setup.
It's
just
Red Dawn.
It is Red Dawn, yeah. It's wild to me because it passed 2.5 million copies sold, which is normally nothing to sneeze
I
at.
rember the marketing.
They
for it.
must have seriously spent a lot on
I
that.
do remember.
So
it.
do you want me to go into my spiel as to how Chaos Studio fucked up?
Sure, because there's some PR debacles that
From Chaos?
yeah, well, about Homefront, because
Okay.
like I'm sure these like the numerous fires that they had to THQ had to extinguish from these like didn't do them much good on top of it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, but what's the deal with Chaos?
Okay. So, sorry if I'm cutting you off. But
No.
Chaos was closed.
Yeah.
After Homefront
Yeah,
didn't.
that June, like it was
Yeah.
like
Right
pretty
away.
shortly after.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
they struck
Yeah.
out.
And THQ's official reasoning, which isn't entirely wrong, is there's a reason there are not many video game studios in New York City.
Oh, is it like?
New York City is expensive.
Right.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Other half.
There aren't. Yeah, I can't think of any.
So the other half of this is that Homefront was apparently the baby of. There's a great article. Let me look up the name real quick so I can refer people to it because I'm not going to cover the whole thing. It's kind of long. Okay, it's on Gamasutra.
Mhm.
Chaos Descends: How Homefront's Developer Met Its End by Lee Alexander. There's
Check
a
that
lot of
out, yeah.
testimonials and stuff in there. It's a great article. But the
Talking about like the development process and all the hurdles that they run into.
it's
not
not
on a
necess-
technical
it
level,
has-
but maybe an impersonal level.
Yeah, in a personnel level.
Right.
So like,
Yeah,
as
I
you
didn't even know
mentioned,
how big they were.
as you mentioned earlier, so Chaos was not big. Chaos was started by a bunch of people who made a mod.
Yeah.
They made Trauma Studios. Trauma Studios was shut down. They formed Chaos. They made Frontline Fuels of War. Which did fine, but like didn't blow anybody out of the water,
we
right?
We recently replayed that for shits, didn't we? Oh no, we played Turning Point. I'm sorry.
We played Turning Point. No.
I get those games confused.
Frontline's Fuels of War was a multiplayer.
Yeah.
It was a spiritual successor to Desert Combat.
Okay.
So the founders of Chaos are pretty open in the article about how like there are a bunch of modders.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people who basically say like, hey, there's a reason why you don't just hire modders and then hand them the keys to a studio.
Ooh.
There's a reason why EA shut them down. Not that they're bad at their jobs or anything, but like video game development and game company management are two separate skill sets.
I didn't think about
that. Modders do not have. And also, you combine that with the fact that Homefront was the baby of Executive Vice President Danny Bilson of THQ, who was a guy that they hired from Hollywood.
Really?
Apparently, according to the article.
All right.
If I'm saying this right, I might be wrong. Read the article if you're at all interested in what I'm saying. It's a great read. But basically, he was like, fuck yeah, man. It's like Red Dawn, the video game. Hell yeah. And like he came in every once in a while and was just like, he would like dip in and be like, that kind of sucks, and then leave. And then they had to like fix everything, you know? But also on top of that, the aspect, so it's not necessarily that it was too expensive to have a studio in New York City, but when you take a studio that as small as the studio that made Frontline Fuels of War and then go, you're our Call of Duty studio, they have to hire up.
Yeah.
And hiring up presents two separate problems. Number one, you have to pay people to relocate to New York City, which ain't cheap.
No.
And B, you now have this weird, in the way corporate structures are, corporate hierarchies are structured.
Mm-hmm.
You have this weird thing where you have modders who have moderate success in development hiring people who know way more than them.
Oh, wow.
But those people who know way more than them are now at the bottom rung of a ladder that they should be at the top of, and the people at the top should be at the bottom. So now you have people who know what they're doing who can't really like, or like their corporate culture really frowned upon talking up to the talking down to the people above you, even though a lot of these people who hired up, who were senior, who have been in the games industry forever, had ideas to make Homefront better than it was, but like they couldn't speak up because they weren't the boss. So they just did what they were told, and what they were told was what was given to them by a team of essentially modders who never really had success.
I had no idea it was that complicated.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
All of those factors combine lead to a clusterfuck of game development.
And on top of that, so I might try and save a bit of this for another episode on a grander topic of like publicity stunts gone wrong. But let me just say, like, one issue involved some kind of insensitive sort of like guerrilla style, like you know what I mean? Like it was so it was inappropriately timed, the release alongside some real world events. That was not entirely like the studio's fault.
Right.
It's like, considering the subject matter of what the game is about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's hard to find a time that a
yeah,
game
exactly.
like that tries to tackle
bombings
the commentary
and real world like war atrocities. Like it you know, like it's very difficult. And then, but the other, who was much more asinine, involved some balloons and a shit ton of angry environmentalists.
Yep.
The former even led to a censoring of many of the in-game sort of like artwork and setting in the East. But yeah, it was, as you said, Austin went into detail there, it was a mess. And, you know, those developers' doors were closed not even 2 months later. Or I guess, wait, when did this release?
2011?
No, it released in March. So they were, by June.
Like shortly,
so,
2 to 3 months.
It's weird because...
Oh, and so was the Juice team.
I like Homefront.
Yeah.
I kind of want to revisit it.
I would be, I would be.
It's not a bad game,
just to
especially in
Taste I got was not a good one.
If you look at THQ as a whole, right? What would you say the best game that they've ever published is?
Well, we didn't get to it yet, but I think I might say Saints Row 3.
I was gonna say Saints Row 3, Red Faction Guerrilla, or Darksiders.
Right.
In the pantheon of
depending how you feel about Darksiders 2.
With those
Company
games
heroes.
at the absolute pinnacle of this company's history,
that's the echelon.
Homefront is not.
No, it's not
a piece of shit. Like it's a good game. It's only in when you frame it as
it's not a Last Airbender.
It's not Call of Duty though. And when you frame it as this is our Call of Duty, we're dumping all our money into this. That's when it becomes problematic. But as far as THQ goes, I was like, yeah, this is about what I expect from a THQ game. I'm enjoying myself,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's better than Damn Buster Studios did on the sequel.
Yes, which we'll talk about that as well.
Time splitters, ass motherfuckers.
Yeah. But hey, took place in our backyards.
Beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough when a development team has that much pressure on them, and then when the final product doesn't meet the standard, they just shut your doors,
Right.
That's kind of a standard you can't live up to when you're expected to be the Call of Duty killer.
Yeah, it's imagine the label of a Call of Duty killer being applied to this kind of small, you said, they're not.
Okay, I'm gonna read
because I don't think they called themselves that. That was THQ
I'm gonna read
wanting a piece of the pie.
I'm gonna read a small clip from this article that I was mentioning earlier.
Okay,
because you're 100% right, Sean. Inside Chaos's collapse is a story of a studio that ramped up too quickly, was under too much pressure, strove beyond its means, and struggled with uncertainty about its future, as well as creative and interpersonal conflicts.
Yeah, it's a recipe for
disaster. That's sad to
hear.
Mm-hmm.
That's the two worst things to have, development, interpersonal issues, and then also to be held to a standard that you probably
and like I said, politics got involved too, and that was not
war
crime shit. That was not on them.
Yeah.
It was just
not only
that came at an edgy
to what you said. Not only a standard that they can't hit. A standard that most of the games industry can't hit.
Yeah.
We know people like to shit
Call of Duty.
People like to shit on Call of Duty all the time, but holy shit.
They're polished and packed with content.
That is a hard standard to be held up to. Those games are well designed.
Yes.
Yeah, and you guys have talked about this before. Multiple studios are involved.
Well.
And also the amount of money.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. There's now it's there's six on
six or seven.
One fucking game.
Just casually do what 3 to 4 other studios do.
Yeah,
probably on a budget of $500 million.
Certainly on a time constraint of every year.
Yeah.
And guess what else happened that month? Another miss in the form of a big budget action misfire. Give you guys a hint. Sci-fi was a part of it for some reason.
Red Faction Armageddon.
Red Faction Armageddon.
Okay.
The fourth installment in the previously successful line of the environmental destruction games, except this go-around, they tried to take it in a strangely different direction and downplay what made the last revival so special. Instead of the travel anywhere outdoor map of buildings to level, it was now closed inside of the linear Mars caverns and pitted the player against hostile aliens rather than an oppressive, an opposing oppressive force of armed humans and vehicles.
This is
the way that the series was so heavily themed around.
This is going to upset you, Randall.
I know there are defenders of Armageddon.
Out of all the Red Faction games, this is the one I played the most.
Really?
Yes.
God
damn.
And
it seems like I'm countering everything.
Maybe it just came out at the right time for you.
I think it was,
yeah.
I'm not as much as I'd like to mock it, me and Austin, Armageddon is not a bad game. It is.
So here's the thing.
It's a weird Red Faction game.
It's not bad. I would even go as far as to say that Volition did a very good job, because I have to imagine with the financial place that THQ was in, you go, what? We need a hit from our big hitters, right?
Yeah.
But we need you to do it on a smaller budget.
That is probably how it was framed.
And I think that...
I mean, there was a lot of recycled kind of assets.
Because I have to imagine, and by have to imagine, I mean definitely sure that this happened. Red Faction Armageddon was probably made by a smaller team at Volition while the rest of Volition was working on Saints Row the Third.
Absolutely.
And on a smaller budget. And I would say that Volition, that smaller team, I'm assuming is smaller, at Volition, who worked on that smaller budget, made an admirable sequel to Guerrilla on those constraints.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
I think it's a good game. And I just think it's there's no way to build there's no way to scale down a sequel to Red Faction Guerrilla and have people leave happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it could have been something to separate itself from what fans expected, but subversions don't always equal great.
Yeah.
Because it's like, instead, its combat appeared bland in competition with its contemporaries, and its emphasis on a plot in relation to a made-for-TV movie no one saw.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Painfully low numbers.
I was going to bring that
sir,
up.
Mr. Red Faction fan. I watched the movie.
I did too.
I did
okay,
not.
so 2 out of 3 people in this room saw it. But what do you mean nobody saw
it?
Oh,
is that the metric you want to use?
No, of course not. We're dumb.
Well, you know what's funny? I remember, like, I was just looking at the game, and when you said sci-fi, I was like, well, he's just...
Are you going to bring up Defiance? Because that was around
that's exactly what I was going to bring up. I was like, man...
Did you play Defiance?
I did. Not very much. I bought it for PC.
Yeah, that was an ambitious idea.
It was.
But I never saw, like...
release this sci-fi, sci-fi, futuristic... shooter MMO.
Yeah. It was an online RPG.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was funny because
apparently the show didn't catch on either.
I was like, oh, it's so cool. I'm gonna play the game and then I'm gonna go watch the show. But I definitely didn't pan out that way. But when you said sci-fi, it reminded me of them making the movie.
Yeah, they have not dabbled in games closely since that experiment.
You also left out the other Red Faction game that they put out around that time.
Did that release the XBLA?
Yeah, I played it.
Battlegrounds?
Mm-hmm. It's awful. It's like Burnout. It makes Burnout Crash look like sucks. Burnout 3.
Oh God. Well, that's a
yuck.
That yuck indeed. So what was originally a marquee poster for them lost its credibility, and that July, our publisher decided to shelve its long-running Red Faction franchise. RIP, there has not been a new Red Faction since.
Don't give up hope.
Yeah, I know. But THQ, they were officially in trouble. On August 9th, they shuttered their Australian branch and Blue Tongue, thus really pushing a harsher stop to a portion of the licensed stuff. Then Rainbow, now known as Digital Phoenix, was donezo. They were the MX vs. MTV team. That September...
Really fell out of favor, huh?
Yeah.
Those ATV racing games?
That September, Relics...
ATV racing game, by the way, made by Double Helix.
Really? Double Helix is a weird fucking company. They did, like...
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
They worked on Killer Instinct. They did a Silent Hill... a G.I. Joe,
They also did the Green Lantern game for the movie. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, you're covering the whole gamut here.
Yeah. So we have Relic's Warhammer Space Marine.
Hell yeah. You ever play that game?
Yeah, I played the demo. I thought it was kind of neat.
Kicks ass.
Yeah, probably very similar. I think I remember that game specifically.
Yeah. It was cool. It didn't particularly save the spiral they were fighting themselves in.
No, it's not a particularly fantastic game, but it's fucking cool.
Yeah, it was going
I'm
for it.
starting to regain my memory. I was the guy, for video games, I was the guy that sat at the table with everybody else was eating their entree. I was like, let me just get a bite. I would play a game for a little bit, and then I would just kind of move on if it didn't grab me. But
I did that too for a while.
Yeah,
Darksiders was definitely.
I did not play a ton of Space Marine,
but you know what?
Cool enough.
It's all right. That's okay. A brand spanking new streaming platform was about to go live.
Stadia?
Luna. No. So anyway, if anyone recalls this disaster, it was which is another future subject for us, almost guaranteed. On Live, a cloud-based micro console from G Cluster that would pull games from servers, allowing users to boot anything from a library right from over the internet. no pesky downloading, no local files to take up space. As Austin said, sounds familiar because of where we're at now. Somebody had to do it first.
G cluster's gross.
That is a bad name.
G cluster, is that like the evolution of the G unit? Staying in the 50-cent vein?
For some reason, it makes me think of STDs.
Yeah.
But what was the business model? Subscription, a la carte? What if I told you it was both? It was an expensive and clumsy alternative to what, folks wanted, and
way ahead of its time.
And it did not last.
I mean, I guess not, but like it kind of
it
in
kind
a
of
way,
was,
right?
yeah.
Because now we're getting every platform or
and
every
also,
major company has their own.
Kudos to them, because let me just say, as somebody who got in on the ground floor of OnLive and also got in on the ground floor of Google Stadia,
how would you describe
and
it?
Also got in on the ground floor of Amazon Luna, let me tell you, they weren't far off for how far ahead for the decade lead time they had.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So,
I completely forgot about
what
that.
What does this, ambitious yet silly venture have to do with THQ? Well, they were on board, bringing a handful of their products to the storefront, hoping just maybe it would stick and they'd be ahead of the curve prior to the rest of other big companies all joining in.
They were making the right moves.
They're
Imagine
trying.
if OnLive was...
It blew up. It could have, yeah.
I mean, they were taking risks when they were doing great, and they were taking risks when they weren't doing great, but they were trying to make anything work.
Yeah. And not that they were the only ones by any means here, but I just found it amusing when you look at where we're at in the story, because usually it's more Ubi to be on top of stuff like that,
right?
But you could stream Frontline Fields of War from a nominal fee. Come on, gamers.
And I did indeed. This is where you played
Metro.
This is where I played Metro 2033,
Yeah.
Red Faction Armageddon, and Frontline Fields of War. Because I got a trial for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been ironed out.
And side note, the private group in charge of the whole thing, their patents got bought by Sony in 2015 for use of its tech in the PlayStation Now service.
And it still
They're
sucks.
probably doing
No,
this. No, it's not great.
I definitely...
Wait, is this Gaikai? Or did Sony also buy Gaikai?
I think Sony also bought Gaikai.
Man, they suck at streaming for how many fucking streaming companies they bought.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Right?
I did not know that. I just assumed, they just... Yeah, I don't... God.
Here's the thing about OnLive, is this is back in the day when I cared enough about performance to seek out the best performance option, but still in the 360 era, not enough about performance to be not 60 FPS, get out of here. So I knew that the performance on the 360 version of 2033 wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play it until a generation later, so.
And that was one of those games where everybody's like, dude, this lighting, you gotta see this game on PC. And I didn't have a PC at the time that was capable of playing Metro 2033.
I didn't either. I remember it being pretty demanding.
So I played OnLive. And OnLive ran at 30 frames. And there was a little bit of maybe a little bit of stuttering and a little bit of lag, but it was still better than what the game would have been natively running on a PC or a 360. So I guess I dealt with it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned or that I brought up, I think the business model was what kind of fucked them. It was just a very poor decision to pay for a sub and also buy games on top. It's not again.
Stadia
10 years later,
learn.
fucking
Stadia couldn't learn.
Conglomerates are still tripping over themselves trying to figure that shit out. So
That's so funny.
Yeah. Back to the sinking ship. Our guys were in desperate need of a smash. So running over the data, they came up with their last shot, doubling down on the first smoking gun. See, throughout 2011, the U-Draw tablet and its hosted tie-ins were maintaining success as a Wii title. I felt I had to repeat that because U-Draw on Wii wasn't what exploded everything. It was U-Draw on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 that exploded everything. I think the three of us here understand damn well that the targeted consumer base was extremely removed from one another when it came to what owners of the 360 and PS3 wanted in comparison to what Wii owners were looking for.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's like once you start to branch out to something like to those platforms, that's disastrous because then you're building hardware, and it's so expensive to do so.
And you worked in games retail, so I mean, it's like I'm sure like you saw that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Nintendo was making anything plastic. Shit, they even turned anything. They said, "Screw the plastic, let's go cardboard." They tried to make it as cost effective as they could with like Labo, but
the box that shows up.
That was definitely the console. Like that was your market. That's who's kids that want to draw and do that stuff, and parents that want to buy it for their kids who want to draw and stuff.
Yeah,
they have a Wii. They don't have a PlayStation 3 playing Killzone.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Because it didn't take much time in the slightest for that to become evident that November. To call the expanded release of the U-Draw initiative a bomb would be a colossal understatement. Like their chief financial officer labeled the plan as a total disaster, further explaining that there were almost 1.5 million unsold units of it for those editions, and described the revenue stream that season as being around 100 million short of expectations.
100 million.
Their later president and Naughty Dog co-founder, Jason Rubin, stated it as one of the, quote, massive mistakes that led to the company going under.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally, THQ also had their final win launched the same fucking day as those U-Draw ports. And man, was it ever a send-off for their relationship to it. Goddamn Saints Row the Third. As we've already, So, a celebration of the absurd that many would define as the closest anyone has ever come to standing toe-to-toe with Rockstar's baby. Even if you can compare them at this point. But regardless, it was the best-selling Saints game yet. A couple outlets were even nominating it for their Game of the Year considerations. I sure had a blast with it. The co-op, the customization, the upgrade system, the soundtrack, the side missions. If they had only carried on to publish more things of this caliber, then I feel like the situation they got in could have been infinitely less dire.
So you said their last win?
In terms of...
But you forgot
success?
the Deepak Chopra game they published for the Kinect.
I'm making stuff up all the time.
I'm not. It's called Deepak Chopra's Leela.
So you're telling me that THQ went down with a dildo bat in hand?
Yep, swinging the dildo bat.
But
That's
no,
great.
my real question is, they did publish Darksiders too.
Yes,
that was
we will get to that.
That was like the last.
That's
game.
literally the swan.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were going to.
Yeah.
No, I was using Saints Row 3 as being like that was in
last gasp of breath.
No, the last gasp of breath is Darksiders 2. This was their like
mega knock it out of the park. Hit?
Yeah, like put a lot of money into making people know it exists. like that kind of.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Which all of this is especially ironic, as Rubin famously got into a tiff with advocacy groups and Volition in response to its content, something the devs rather enjoyed pushing back on when told to do better. I guess he is a family man after all. But the dildo bat is quoted in that.
Oh, of course.
Which is, I think they sent a couple actual dildo bats to the press.
I feel like I remember that.
Yeah.
I'm being very jealous.
Yeah, like I don't know if like IGN or GameSpot did videos with it. I know Giant Bomb.
No, IGN did it because I believe Max Scoville still has the dildo bat.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want that just in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from this exception, though, product wasn't moving like it once was for them. Wrestling and UFC's titles were steady, but not enough to pull them out of the hole they stumbled into. Occasionally, a victory here and there would pop. They did assist in bringing Amnesia: The Dark Descent to North America, although the life on that one turned out to be longer than the like the earlier days for it. Not that it ever connected with me, despite my love for the horror genre, but I'm obviously aware of its impact for what it's worth. See our Resident Evil Halloween special for a breakdown of my feelings on that. Moving on, in January of 2012, THQ said they were exiting the business of producing games for children entirely. February, everything surrounding the U-Draw tablet was killed. By May, net losses were reported to be at negative 239.9 mil for the fiscal. Later that same month, it was announced their president was stepping down. Yeah, we're getting close to the end times, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks after this, they gave their rights to the UFC brand over to EA. The company then filed a notice with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for a meeting on June 25th. Here, they asked stockholders to approve a reverse split of the common stock.
I remember this.
Yeah.
This is where I learned what a reverse split was.
So, yeah, I didn't know until, looking into this, but that request was granted in July, with the split being 1-10, thus resulting in its delisting from the NASDAQ.
Yep.
Or the National Association of Securities Dealers Automated Quotations.
I think it's pronounced NASDAQ.
No, it's NASDAQ.
Is it? But Jesus, guys, this is a tad verbose. You think you're
That's why everybody just calls it NASDAQ.
Yeah,
I didn't even know what it stood for.
Meanwhile, the releases under their name began to really slow, trickling out fairly far apart when compared to their previous years. There was a remake of a free-to-play shooter by Ilphonic called Nexius that I completely missed. That was May. General consensus is that it was okay. More importantly, their last hurrah,
Darksiders 2.
Darksiders 2. That was in August. A follow-up to the 2010 Darksiders 1. You're now in the role of Death, as you said. The vibe from what I gathered with this one is either you were like even more into it than the first, or vice versa.
So here's the
Apparently, there's like no in between from like.
Here's the thing.
I got a funny story.
Yeah, here's the thing about Darksiders 2. I like Darksiders 1 more. And the audience of Darksiders is pretty split on that, I think.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the fact that Darksiders 1, 2, and 3, and even 3, which is not THQ, which you'll get to in a second.
Yep.
But I appreciate the fact that Darksiders 1 and 2 are wildly different games.
Right.
That is cool.
Yeah. Like it's very interesting how split the fandom is on those two, because they're not the same game.
Yeah.
They're not.
I've seen like forum wars over Darksiders 1 versus Darksiders 2.
But they're both good.
So yeah, I'm pretty split down the middle. I'll be honest. Like
gun to your head though.
Oh gosh, you really gonna do this?
I am.
All right, get the gun. I would say I played 2 more recently. Obviously, 2 was funny because I picked it up off the heels of 1, knowing that I enjoyed 1 so much, and kind of got 3-4 hours in and then put it down, and then revisited it, went back later and played it again to completion, and I was like, man, why did I ever walk away from it? You know, what was?
Did you get distracted by another game or something?
It could have been that, or it could have just been that I'm a very time and place person when it comes to
no,
games.
I am too. I completely sympathize.
But yeah, they both did it for me. So,
cool.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's it's right
I'm still
here.
split.
I do know plenty of people that enjoy both wholeheartedly, but it is funny how like impassioned everyone is over where they stand between the two. And I also just realized how fitting it was that you were Death in it.
Yeah,
pretty good. Just like the credits are him visiting their headquarters, I don't know, or her. Jumping to November, after their final WWE game, it was revealed that THQ had defaulted on a $50 million loan from Wells Fargo, and were sadly on the verge of total bankruptcy.
It's not a big one. $50 million? I can pull that out of my ass.
Their stock price even plummeted from its already low $3 a share to $1.16, while the long-term liabilities were at $250 million.
Give me 100.
You know what THQ didn't do? Defraud the American public and cause a bunch of people to go bankrupt.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Because Wells Fargo did that. Why couldn't Wells Fargo shut down?
Why
does THQ have to pay them back, huh?
This is when you're going to get taken out.
Yeah.
In response to this...
Fuck you and your welcome wagon, Wells Fargo. I said it.
Let me guess, they got bailed out.
No, they settled for a fine from the SEC. There's a great...
How big was that fine?
Side note, there's a great documentary series on Netflix called Dirty Money. If you want to know what I'm talking about, watch the Wells Fargo episode. Fuck that fucking company all day, every day.
Hot button approved. So in response to this, dates for Company Heroes 2 and Metro Last Light were both delayed into 2013. However, they did go through with a small batch of stuff for the launch of the Wii U, including a port of Darksiders 2. On the 29th, they would partner with Humble Bundle. I remember this. In an effort to raise money. By the time it ended on December 12th, a B-Day, 800,000 bundles were sold, giving them around $5 million altogether, with $11,050 of it coming from Jason Rubin himself. A valiant attempt, but he clearly wasn't going to cut it. Following that, on the 19th, our iconic toy/video game manufacturer officially filed for Chapter 11. This, of course, coming with the sale of their assets and properties. Ruben's buddy actually being set to oversee the Stalking Horse bid, which I did have to look up. In short, it's essentially an auction designed to maximize value, such as with preventing cheaper bids, and offers protections on things like breakup fees ahead of the event. But yeah, it doesn't even matter, since here it was denied in favor of a more traditional auction that would separate each individual IP.
What year was this?
2013.
I remember. So I'm about to graduate college.
Yeah.
Right. 2013.
Or actually, no. Sorry, end of 2012.
Yeah. So I'm about to graduate college.
Because the Wii U is...
I remember specifically sitting in class and refreshing an IGN page to see who bid on what THQ property.
Yeah, I was following that pretty closely as well.
Yep.
Now, I thought I should tell you all what THQ's final published product was.
Oh, hit me with it.
A budget Wheel of Fortune title for the Wii U.
Ugh.
Talk about going out with a bang, eh? What a way to... and that was, I think, that was December 14th, 2012. It ends with the wheel. Anyway, the sales. I'll try and do this quick. Let's start with my fave, Volition. Them, along with the Metro franchise, were acquired by Koch Media.
Okay, dude.
Koch.
Is it Koch? This isn't a Coke situation?
No.
We made that mistake before.
Okay.
No, he said Koch, and then I said, no, it's Coke, but it's not the Koch brothers.
Yeah, right.
And because it's not the Koch brothers,
that led to that.
They're from a different country, and there it's pronounced Koch.
Did that come up on
E3.
It's funny.
E3.
No, it came up in E3, but I think it might have also had a role in the cooking mama. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fiasco, yeah. So then we have Homefront, as Chaos was gone, went to Crytek, who later was bought by Koch. Relic Entertainment and the license to develop Warhammer 40K games were sold to Sega, the same Sega who went on to also publish their Company Heroes 2. 2K via Take-Two picked up the WWE stuff, as we all know. Here's a couple interesting ones. THQ were originally on track to put out both Turtle Rock's Evolve and the hotly anticipated South Park: The Stick of Truth. Because, the latter felt like it was stuck in limbo for a while there.
Yeah.
Oh, Evolve, we hardly knew ye.
Yeah. So 2K snatched Evolve, which a rough deal, and South Park released under Ubisoft, which was really great for them.
Yeah.
And the sequel was made by the Rocksmith people.
Wait, was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the San Francisco?
Yeah.
Because didn't they also do like Driver?
I think so.
Yeah.
By the way, just to clarify for people listening, Koch Media, you probably better know them as Deep Silver.
Yeah, I was gonna say that threw me for a loop because I thought Deep Silver
is the brand for video games. You recognize that Kroll logo.
Are you gonna get into this whole fucking clusterfuck?
A little bit,
okay.
Yeah. So Vigil Games, well, they unfortunately went to Defunct Town as they were a part of the Chapter 11 case that laid everyone off. So this grouping happened on January 22nd of 2013. Several months later, in early April, its remaining IP would be up for grabs. Also, those servers to that Nexius game shut down sometime around here too, I believe. Thank you also for specifying. Yes,
yeah,
Deep Silver.
That's crazy to me. Vigil, right?
Yeah.
imagine you make Darksiders 1 and Darksiders 2, and then your company closes.
Yeah,
So
no, 2 games that reviewed and sold well.
Here's the funny thing.
And
Do you
they're
get
out.
into what happened to Vigil?
Can
I go into it?
Yeah, that's kind of the end of
Okay.
Vigil story for me.
So when Vigil shut down,
Mm-hmm.
they formed 2 separate studios. Basically, the founders divided,
Okay.
and each group founded their own studio. One half of Vigil became Gunfire Games, the people that made Remnant from the Ashes,
Okay.
Oh, which is awesome.
Nice.
and also
Yeah.
made Darksiders 3.
Nice.
And then the other half, the comic book guy,
Oh, that's where Genesis came from.
yeah, so they formed Airship Syndicate, who went on to make Battle Chasers, that turn-based
Okay,
RPG with
that
his
makes
art
sense.
style.
Yeah.
It's based on one of his comic books. And then they made Darksiders Genesis.
Okay.
So people don't know this, but all of the Darksiders games are made by the same people, even though it's 3 separate studios.
Man, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What a
That's funny.
Yeah.
Huh.
Then so Gearbox took Homeworld, 505 took Drawn to Life, Activision was left with the Nickelodeon scraps apparently, and everything else was purchased by Nordic Games.
Mhm.
If they sound familiar, don't worry, because we'll get back to them in a second. Though yeah, this meant that they got Red Faction, Saints Row, Darksiders, Destroy All Humans, Metro, everything.
Interesting.
Which I honestly thought was kind of weird at the time, since I seriously had no fucking clue who they were. Not that they were around long. I guess I wasn't playing much Book of Unwritten Tales back then or whatever. But the buyers appeared happy. Creditors weren't, saying the handling of the sales in the court unfairly benefited the publisher's management team, including Mr. Rubin. Luckily for them, the judge denounced the claims and the employees were absolved of any malfeasance. And with that, THQ was no more. Otherwise, the liquidation did still affect the futures of some outside studios if they were their primary client. Like Blitz Games was an example of this. But, you know, good night, sweet prince. Except then, out of nowhere, they were back. Sort of, not really. On June 12th, 2014, Nordic announced that in Atari fashion, they had now owned the THQ trademark, thus rebranding themselves as THQ Nordic in August of 2016, as I suppose the THQ name meant more than theirs.
Fair.
Prior to that, they were allowed to publish under the banner regardless, so it's not like they wasted any time jumping on that. It is nice to see so many of their works live on, at least in some form. Like, they've been pretty regular with the remasters in particular anyway.
Yeah.
Red Faction and Darksiders have both have
Yep.
new updates
1
on
and 2.
As well as Saints Row.
consoles.
Right.
Yeah, Saints Row.
Because, are you going to mention the Embracer group shit?
Funny.
That-
They were just in the news or something.
Yeah. So no, I only have like a sentence in here about that, but I think you could dig into it a little deeper. If you
Yeah,
want.
okay, so there's a Swedish company called Embracer Group.
Yeah. Who has, as Sean said, been popping up a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, because they are 10-cent style, buying up fucking everything.
they're like a holdings. Like,
So they now weirdly, so it was a big kerfuffle in the games industry when, Red Faction went to a different company than Volition.
yeah. Who Volition did continue on to make the Saints Row stuff.
Saints Row 4.
Saints
was
Row
under
4
Deep
was
Silver.
under Deep Silver. I think Get Out of Hell.
Yep,
Yeah.
but that was under Deep Silver, as was Homefront
Yeah.
was under Deep
the
Silver.
Revolution.
The Revolution.
Yeah.
And then THQ Nordic Games, THQ Nordic, went on to continue Darksiders,
Yeah.
and they went on, and then Gearbox published a Homefront game, and then Embracer Group bought Koch Media, as well as they bought Gearbox, as well as they bought
Where's all this money coming in from? Jesus.
Sweden.
Yeah. They're like a European Tencent.
In addition, they bought THQ Nordic. So
Well,
now,
so it's just all under the same fucking umbrella.
so now it's basically the Embracer Group is like this weird.
it's a really intimidating name, by the
It
way,
is.
isn't it? Just like
but it's like this weird
like the
conglomerate.
guy from Nestle who wants to own all the water.
Yeah.
It's like this weird conglomerate that is just built on the fucking pile of corpses that is THQ. Like half the shit that they own And we're talking like, I think they own Gunfire Games.
Yeah.
Was Flat Out THQ?
No,
because they own Bugbear as well.
They own Wreckfest is that under?
That's under Embracer Group, yeah.
Flat Out might have been like Majesco or something. Back in the day.
Well, either way.
No, I'm very
it's
curious.
It's a fitting company name.
Embrace the reason that all
if
of
Flat Out
these...
was THQ, I would have fucking talked all about it.
The reason that they
Vivendi.
Okay, the reason that they are like leading the charge in this remaster stuff is because they are essentially this weird amalgamation of a bunch.
But...
They're a weird amalgamation of a bunch of 2000s franchises now back under one umbrella.
Yeah, Destroy All Humans also got.
Yeah. Yep.
It's cool that there is an easy way to play these games, but they're not doing anything.
It's not progressing.
Make it Destroy All Humans 3. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great that we're getting the remasters and we're getting, like you said, preservation type treatments done and things like that.
It'll be way cooler at New Red Faction.
Making all these, I guess, games more palatable nowadays. But it is a shame to see that that's the as far as it goes.
It's minimal effort for,
for
not guaranteed profit, but it
is a shame. It is a shame though, because the reason I bring it up is just because like you ask the question like, where's all this money coming from? And it's like,
they don't know.
If THQ could have just pulled through,
I know.
they'd be killing it right now.
Yeah, they'd probably be one of the pillars. They'd have their own E3 fucking conference.
Imagine we.
Koch Media did. It was terrible, but they did.
Yes, they did.
I don't know, man. We got the Darksiders 3 they intended rather than the one that we got.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I didn't want to bring that up because I talked to Austin about this recently, where my roommate was playing Darksiders 3, and I didn't even recognize it as a Darksiders game. I walked into the room and I was like, "What fucking Dark Souls shit is this?"
It definitely, they definitely are like, "What's gonna appeal? We have to bend this a little bit to make it more appealing. What's hot right now? Dark Souls." And it's I wouldn't say it's like, it's definitely I played it, I beat it, I 1 through 3 played and beat. I just had to bookend that.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it was like bad, but it
definitely had a different feel. You want to talk about the games just being different? Like that's a perfect example of a total spectrum. It's the last one's not a sports game, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But that that could have definitely been something different, but we got what we got.
Yeah. This being said, that everyone is the history of THQ. The rise and fall. Thank you guys for riding along with me on the journey. I know there was a lot of games and companies in there, way more than Acclaim. And just like with them, it does make you ponder about the death of these, once sometimes great, sometimes less great AA publishers that made a career out of the B-tier release. Now it's mostly just a few giants that can survive the war beyond the indie space. Now, I do want to thank the various sources here that were essential in helping me with my research today. Moby Games was a major one this week. Same with Giant Bomb, Wikipedia, of course, the LA and San Francisco Times, for especially like a lot of the financial sort of elements of it. Shack News, Joystick, IGN, Destructoid, The Six Axis, Eurogamer, Kotaku, Forbes, Bloomberg, PC Gamer, Ars Technica, Gamasutra, the BBC, Polygon, and GameSpot.
Look! Even in death, they're in everybody's mouths. Yeah, you know what I mean. If their headstone read anything, it would be could have been, should have been. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Also, I apologize if certain smaller bits of their near endless catalog were omitted. In the interest of us not being in this room all night, I did voluntarily leave out THQ's hand in the distribution of titles that weren't directly credited to them in the forefront. This factored heavily into them like bringing things to other territories, like SimCity 2000 in Japan, Conker's Bad Fur Day in Europe, since Nintendo are wussies. Guitaru Man, that was for Europe too. It was likely the same with a couple of the Star Wars stuff. Then there's like Stubbs the Zombie, Psychonauts, Blood Rain 2, former topic Advent Rising, that fucking Jaws game, Lumines 2, even League of Legends was on the list of foreign collaborations. It goes on, and bringing up each of those would have utterly slowed us down. I could talk about my boy Stubbs till the cows come home. Instead of that, before the plugs, I do want to leave us with the ultimate THQ question for us all, our way of pouring one out, going around the table. What would you say was your top game under their reign out of everything we brought up today?
Oh man.
And that's not because like I think you proposed a similar question earlier about like what we thought was their highest echelon, but I just mean purely internally,
There's so many.
A series can also count, I suppose, but
yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely the Darksiders games.
Yeah.
I Saints Row was awesome. I kind of was I was off to the side, kind of watching you enjoy them, and not that they didn't appeal to me, and not that I didn't think they were fun, because I did play, I think a decent bit of 2 and a decent bit of 3, but like I just said, I played 1 through 3.
Yeah.
Genesis is on the list of games I'm gonna go back to, but those games, just like I said earlier, they just do it for me. They did everything I wanted, and I enjoyed my time with them, and that was really like my fondest memory of THQ games.
No, right on. How about you, Austin?
So, in my head, it's a 3-way tie between Saints Row the Third, Red Faction Guerrilla, and Darksiders 1.
Okay.
Out of those,
it's a good trifecta.
Out of those 3,
I think that represents sort of like, all the different places that THQ can come from and supply.
Out of those, I'd probably say Red Faction Guerrilla.
All right.
I love that game.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think for me, like franchise, I probably feel the most bonded with Saints Row, but Red Faction.
Oh, come on.
I might say Red Faction 1. Guerrilla, I acknowledge is probably a better and more impactful game, but.
Yeah, we all knew what you were going to say. Come on, that's a shoe-in for first place for you, of course.
Yeah, I suppose. I guess it is. But yeah, no, I think that's it. I think the only note that I have is just that we're coming for you next Midway. So,
your days are numbered. We're numbered.
We're numbered.
Rest in peace. We're digging up your corpse pretty soon.
But
we're going through the graveyard. You're next.
I think it might be plug time there, Austin.
All right, cool.
It goes without saying, if you liked this, check out our Acclaim episode and
check out the Acclaim episode and keep an eye out for the Midway episode.
Yeah,
coming in the future. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Sean, for being here.
Yes, very much. I can't wait to have you
long
back
time
already.
coming.
Yeah,
I'm a day oneer.
Our day one right here.
I'm a day oneer.
Thank you for listening. You can check out all the episodes we've been mentioning and more at hotbuttoncast.com. You can also subscribe to them on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube. Rate and review, subscribe, whatever the fuck I'm supposed to say. And also check out our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at HotButtonCast.
Yep.
Got some updates on there.
I thank Fuse as well, but he's left.
Yeah, the dog left. He's been barking. But yeah, I think that's it for plugs.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Peace.